Bills fans, I'm not even going to attempt to lie to you. I'm not going to tell you a white lie. I'm not going to tell you a partial lie. The truth is, this was likely the worst season y'all will have in the last 5 years.
Shout out the Bills Mafia! It's not outside! It's not outside! Yeah, we the Buffalo Bills. Yeah, we the Buffalo Bills. You better know that. Look how we throwing and catching, cause we are unstoppable, yeah. You better know that. Look how we running and hitting, cause we are unstoppable, yeah. Reppin' the Mafia, yeah. Reppin' the Mafia, Bills, Mafia, yeah. You better know that. Look how we throwing and catching, cause we are unstoppable, yeah. You better know that. Look how we running and hitting, cause we are unstoppable, yeah. Homie, now listen. Everyone play their position. Buffalo got a tradition. They say we tripping. They better get out our way. Top of the table, we flipping. We on a mission. Got an unstoppable team. Continue to follow your dream by any means. Buffalo, get in the Super Bowl ring. Cause we the Buffalo Bills. Yeah, we the Buffalo Bills. You better know that. Look how we throwing and catching, cause we are unstoppable, yeah. You better know that. Look how we running and hitting, cause we are unstoppable, yeah. Reppin' the Mafia, yeah. Reppin' the Mafia, Bills, Mafia, yeah. You better know that. Look how we throwing and catching, cause we are unstoppable, yeah. You better know that. Look how we running and hitting, cause we are unstoppable, yeah. Mafia up in your city, time to get gritty. Screaming and yelling, we bugging. Look at the red and blue.
This is an MVP year for Josh Allen. As an MVP voter, I said this last week. Josh Allen, he looks like an MVP. When you vote for MVP, and I can speak for myself, I think I'm one of 50 voters, you look at a couple things. Who's the best team in football? Who's the best player on that team in football? What do they look like as the best player on that team in football? And how much talent is around that best player on that best team in football?
Cause we the Buffalo Bills. Yeah, we the Buffalo.
And a good evening, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Coast to Coast podcast. I am your co-host, Beyond716, back from a 2-week hiatus after the draft. We've had a couple weeks to digress and kind of reassess and think about how the Buffalo Bills did in the 2026 draft. And, we're getting more into the offseason here, but offseasons seem to be shorter and shorter in the NFL. Next week, we have the schedule release right around the 12th or 14th, from my understanding. So that's coming up soon. We're only 126 days away from the kickoff. So coming up faster than you realize. So for today, we got a great show. We got some fantastic guests today. We're going to really get further into discussing more about the Buffalo Bills draft. We're going to go into some analysis. Whittle's really prepared a lot of great stuff for us tonight. We're going to talk about some linebacker battles and other topics as well. So, after a couple weeks, I've had some time to really assess what the Buffalo Bills did in our draft, and it was the word mixed results always seems to come to mind for me. It's somewhat interesting to see how Brandon Beane seems to nail the ends of the drafts a lot smoother, at least in our eyes, initially, more than the higher picks. Love the 3 trade downs. We got into that a lot. I'm sure he did last week. I'm not going to rehash a lot of that, but that started out great. The second round picks were, surprising, especially some of the players we passed on, especially that, one tech defensive tackle from Ohio State that Whittle and I really wanted before the draft. We did pass on him, and where he went to Houston, a double whammy for us. We'll have to see how that all works out. Nothing against the players we took personally, but I just feel like that was the perfect time to take, the defensive tackle. So here we are. And one little public service announcement: some of us still have teams in the playoffs, ladies and gentlemen. And
we doing this?
We're going. Now, here's the funniest thing, Whittle. I've been a fan for 40-something years of the Knicks, and I could tell you, I already know this is going to turn out. Okay, I already know. I haven't been going crazy, and I already knew. Oh, Embiid's out tonight. Oh, the Knicks are going to roll by 4. No, this isn't how it works in Madison Square Garden. So
right.
I'm hoping Dog is here tonight, because I know he's our resident Sixer fan. So I'm sure he's got some words for you, but I'll leave that alone. And also for anyone out there, if you just not tell me the Sabre score, I have it paused right now, so I'm waiting on that as well. So we got a lot. There's a lot going on right now this time of year, but want to welcome in The one and only, yes. And Nautica, you are correct. I'm coming right at the Celts. But you know what? Until the Knicks get a chip, I'm gonna reserve myself. See what I'm not like the rest. So I'm gonna be
Yeah.
a little bit more reserved. I want to see a little bit more out of the Knicks before I start going crazy. So but good to see you too, Albert, as well. And Whittle, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing all right, man. But I'm telling you, man, it be your own people, man. It be your own people. You know, when you got friends like these, who needs enemies, right? Um, Now I wanted to, we'll speak briefly about the NBA. Yes, the Boston Celtics are out of it. Um, and it's fine. I mean, we raised the banner in 24. It's cool, man. Like, the Knicks have an opportunity to go ahead and finally get one after, what is it, 53 years, something like that. So,
I was born in 1973. That's the last time the Knicks won a championship. So
yeah,
I'm well
it's
aware
been a
it's a
while. It's been a while.
long time. So,
Yeah.
so I'm fully aware. Former season ticket holder. I understand how it is with the Knicks.
So yeah, but so today, guys, we have a number of guests that I'm trying to. Okay, I can get rid of this. We have a number of guests today. All Bills fans. Like I said, if you guys have been rocking with us since the beginning, you know that this podcast is not about myself. It's not about Brian. This is a Buffalo Bills podcast. We are members of Bills Mafia. We keep this very, 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 very Bills. We try to keep this very, very Bills centric, but on a level of education, on a level of sharing other teams and other fan bases and their rosters and tendencies and from their fans' perspective, we bring that to you guys. But today, right now, in this moment, this is strictly all about the Buffalo Bills. We got various members of Bills Mafia from all over the country. Some people you'll recognize that have been on this show plenty of times. Others that you may not recognize because they haven't been here, and this is their first time. And I got my big dog from TikTok over here right now. He's making a cameo on our platform, and I appreciate that. And we got a couple of dynamite guests that I'm very, very anxious to talk to. So guys, if you guys want to give me a thumbs up, let me know when you're ready, and we'll go from there. Okay, cool. So I'm gonna bring to the stage right now Bill's content creator from TikTok. I ran into this brother a few months, probably maybe 2 months ago. I heard him in a TikTok live, just really like going at it with a couple, just like representing Buffalo, representing the Bills very, very well. And one of my Chiefs homies from Twitter, she she vouched. She was like, yeah, like he be holding it down for y'all on this side. So I want to bring the one and only Bro to the stage. Bro, how you doing, man?
Yo, what's good, man? Shout y'all out, man. What's happening, man? Appreciate you for
What
having me,
happening,
man.
bro?
Hey, man,
Welcome.
listen, bro.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, I'm very, very happy to have you on. We're gonna get right into it, but I would be remiss if I did not bring up my good brother here from the Midwest. He's out in the Midwest, but he is a diehard Buffalo Bills fan. One of the smoothest content creators. Very, very centered, very, very intelligent, very, very gosh, I could run out of adjectives describing him, but my guy Rev, man, welcome to the stage, Rev. I'm happy to have you, brother. How have you been?
Man, what's good, man? Hey, I'm glad to be here. Whittle, it's been a long time, man. The first time on the podcast, man. I'm glad we could finally link up, man, and do it. Both of you guys, man. I'm honored to be here, bro.
We're honored to have you here, Rev. Thanks for coming on.
Anytime, man.
Absolutely. We also got a couple more coming up, but I mean they're diehard Sabre fans. Not that anybody on right now isn't a diehard Sabre fan, but Kevin Masseri and Jared, I'm very, very sure are into this Sabres game right now, and they both will be on. I'm sure, shortly as this game, as the Sabres game kind of rounds itself out. But let's get right into it. Okay, Buffalo Bills had a draft. There's no Sean.
Yeah.
Let's start from the beginning. Sean McDermott's gone. We lose in spectacular fashion yet again in the playoffs. We've been screaming. A lot of us have been screaming for changes for the last few years. I think 2021 up until now, people have been screaming for changes, whether it's been the head coach, the GM, the head coach and the GM, the wide receiver that used to be here. Now he's been exonerated of his crimes, but the wide receiver that used to be here.
Yeah.
Some of the defensive players, some of the offensive players we wanted out of the building. And here we are. Here we are now. Coach is gone. The roster's been turned over. I think this is like the second turnover of the roster since Josh has been here. And we close, man. We be close every year. We're close. And we just can't figure out how to get over the hump. Now we look at the teams that have won the Super Bowl over the last, 5, 6, 7 years, whatever. Those defenses have stood out. Every single one of them. We can go back to, except for the Chiefs. Like the Chiefs had 1 year where they just offensively, they were crazy.
Yeah.
They were just crazy. But Tampa Bay, when they won, that defense, man, it was the defense. Offense was good. But that defense locked in like around like week 7 or 8 of that season, and they just went on a run, and they didn't stop until they raised the trophy. After that, the Chiefs won, and they won 3 Super Bowls. In 2 of those years, they had a top 5 defense. I mean, you got an All-Pro at Chris Jones, you had an All-Pro at Tyrann Mathieu, you had an All-Pro at with Trent McDuffie. You had an eraser at corner that you could line up anywhere in L'Jarius Sneed before he got hurt. And then you had, you obviously got Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and Tyreek Hill. Like, I mean, they just weapons on top of weapons. Andy Reid, Spagnola. Like, they just had it all, man. Great kicker. Then you go to the Rams, right? They trade for Matthew Stafford. They bring in OBJ. You got Cooper Kupp, the triple crown winner. Then on that defensive line, you got Floyd, right? You got Von Miller. You got Aaron Donald. Like, that's 2 Hall of Famers right there, man. And Leonard Floyd was one of the ones double-digit sacks a couple years down there. So I mean, like, those defenses. Then in the secondary, you got the safety. I think it was Weddle, right? Weddle was the safety. Eric Weddle?
Yeah, yep.
Eric Weddle was that safety. You got Jalen Ramsey at corner. So you got studs all over the place on defense. And the defense is playing studly, right? They coming up with big stops. They making plays. They getting those guys over the hump. Matthew Stafford turns the ball over. They get the stop. They get the offense the ball back. And they win games. They go on and they win a Super Bowl, right? Then Seattle Seahawks and the Philadelphia
Eagles.
I'm speaking that into existence. The Seahawks
They need to bring him back. Bring him back.
They got to come back, man. They got to come back. But I don't want to get on this NBA. My team is home, man. But whatever. But but we talk about the Seahawks and the Eagles, and the offenses. They do a lot of things, and they wow you. AJ Brown and JSN and Saquon and Kenneth Walker and the quarterbacks and all this. But those defenses, bro, I mean, that defensive line rotation for both of those teams was crazy, man. Seattle, Leonard Williams, Boye Mafe, Derek Hall, what's the kid that came, Byron Murphy that came out of Texas. I mean, they got guys on top of guys over there. Then with the Eagles, you got Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter and Graham and Reddick, and they had just guys on top of guys on top of guys. The Nolan Smith kid, the speed, the guy that ran like a 4.38 or 4.39 as a defensive end, like, so all of these teams have that, and the Bills are consistently missing that. We get into the playoffs, no matter what the defense is ranked in the regular season, they're giving up close to 10 points extra in the playoffs. So how do we stop that? got a defensive head coach. They get him out of there. He's gone. Bring in Jim Leonard. We're talking about scheme change. We're talking about changing the type of personnel we have out there, changing the style of defense that we're gonna have. We're no longer gonna be a bend but don't break. We're no longer gonna be a coverage-based defense. We're gonna heat these guys up. So that takes us to the draft. Mm-hmm. The draft came day one. I thought Bean was a genius. Everybody that's watched this pod, y'all know how me and Brian think, or how me and Beyond think. But I got these brothers up here, and we're gonna start with Rev. Rev, talk to me about the draft, bro. How did you feel, and what pick stood out to you? And just give me your synopsis on the draft.
Yeah. So for me, when it came to the draft, I actually picked the T.J. Parker pick, man. I knew they liked him from a while back, and so when I looked at the team and I seen the holes that they had, and really when you think about the Bills, there's not really a whole lot of holes, but they just need better players at certain spots. And I know there was a lot of people talking about, hey, the Bills need to get offense. We need another receiver. We need this and we need that. We need to give Josh some more weapons. At the end of the day, they averaging 30 points a game. Whenever they get in the playoffs, there's one main problem. It's always been the same problem every year, year after year after year after year, except for that Bengals game. It's the defense, man. It's always been the defense. And I knew that they had to address this defense, especially with the scheme change, and you got Jim Leonard and 3-4, yada, yada, yada. And so I was anticipating that. But we can talk about defense, and it can be really broad. But when you look at it specifically, though, when you really take it to a macro level and you look at, all right, so what specifically was the cause to the Bills, not really getting over that hump in the playoffs the past several years defensively? It's been the lack of pass rush. There has been next to zero pass rush every single year. They went out last year and got Joey Bosa because they hoped that he was going to improve the pass rush. He did okay during the regular season, but where was he in the playoffs? Nowhere. They couldn't get to Bo Nix to save the life. Nothing. You can go back to the previous years. I mean, going against Pat Mahomes and trying to get him, they couldn't get him to the ground. They couldn't get him. And so they've always been trying to address the pass rush, but they could never be successful at it. And so this year they go in and they look at, all right, we're gonna make some trade downs, and I actually thought they would be comfortable at 26 and getting T.J. Parker if they didn't find a partner. But they ended up trading back 3 times. Here they are, top of the second round, and they get T.J. Parker from Clemson. And a lot of people were like, yo, the Bills need to get this speed, bendy edge rusher, and I get it. But when you look at it, T.J. Parker to me is almost like a Bradley Chubb light, you know what I'm saying? But it's a younger version of him, and he's a 3-down player. He can play against the run. He's got some advanced pass rush moves for a rookie, especially when you compare what he's got, in his tool belt to Greg Rousseau, who just is really just a bull rusher, and that's all he has, and he's okay with that. If it wasn't for his length, he would probably be not that good. But anyway, so I actually like the T.J. Parker pick. I felt like they needed to address pass rush, and I get it. I know a lot of people were like, "Yo, they need to get this one tech." For months, there was this whole this conversation about one tech and Whittle. I mean, I was on X with you, when the whole Dexter Lawrence talk was getting heated up, and I'm like, "Yo, now if you can get that brother, he's different." But in this draft, I just didn't really feel like. And then when I started looking at what Jim Leonard does defensively, I didn't think getting a 2-down, 2-gapping nose tackle was what they needed, especially drafting at in the first round or top of the second round. I just didn't feel like they would get enough usage out of him. And so I'm like, they need to get pass rush somehow, some way. You lose Joey Bosa's gone. You don't have A.J. Epinesa. So all you have is Greg Rousseau. Now he's moving to a stand-up outside linebacker. And then you got Bradley Chubb, who's 30 now. You have Michael Hoyt you're still waiting on to recover from injury. There is no real answer depth-wise at the pass rush position. And I'm looking at TJ Parker and I'm like, yo, you can plug and play that guy right now, day one, and he can get in that rotation. He's going to see a lot of time. So I love that pick. And then we can move on to round, to the second pick if you want afterwards. But I'll just really just touch on TJ Parker. I really felt like that was a guy that they needed. They needed to address pass rush because that's been the main problem ever since they've been booted out of the playoffs, man, year after year. They just could not get quarterbacks on the ground. And so when they got Parker, I'm like, all right, hopefully this brother right here can make a change, when it comes to that weakness. In addition to Bradley Chubb, and of course you've got Greg Rousseau and Michael Hoyt when he comes back from injury.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up about TJ Parker and him being basically a clone of Bradley Chubb, because we talked about that last week. How most of these draft picks resemble somebody that's already on the roster. So, but we talked about that last week. But real quick, I want to get Bro in here. Bro, man, same question, man. Can you break down the draft for us, brother, from your perspective?
Yeah, I'll try my best not to go past the our first pick, if you will. But hey, the brother just broke it down very simple, man. The issue hasn't been nowhere close to what the offense can do, what Josh Allen can bring to the table, even when he has two turnovers and so forth. And I've spoken to you about this on numerous occasions about how it's not on Josh Allen and his offense why we haven't even reached the Super Bowl. This has everything to do with a defense that not only is giving up 11 points, excuse me for saying so, but it's actually almost 14 points when you talk about from the regular season to the playoffs. But to the draft, I thought Brandon Beane had to do what he did, which was get more picks later on. And as Bro just spoke about, they actually do better in their later rounds with the picks of who they actually draft. And so to have this type of draft with talent, as we saw in these later rounds in the third and fourth round, my favorite players are in those rounds. Well, I love the TJ Parker pick. I love the motor of him. I've watched the tape. The way he uses his hands is going to be so essential to how this attacking style now edge rushers are going to be for this Buffalo Bills defense. That's the part that is scary, which is why I believe, in my opinion, they didn't go for the one tech early on, because at the end of the day, if you're getting the problem off the edge, that changes what a defense looks like in totality. Just ask the Giants and so forth with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We've seen it time and time again with the Baltimore Ravens and the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I thought solidifying the edge was something that they should have done, because it gets us away from a bunch of guys that, let's be honest, AJ Epinesa was good as a depth piece, but he's not changing in the fourth quarter for us what we needed. And now you add a Bradley Chubb to a TJ Parker to a Gregory Rousseau. Now you start to look like, oh, now I got multiple guys that I can send towards you. One of the things that I thought why people I don't think is taking into consideration how good this Bills defense can be. The best of Bills to me last year, it wasn't in the playoffs at all. It was actually against the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, people are going to use that game and say, well, the Kansas City Chiefs weren't the Kansas City Chiefs. It's not the point. Michael Hoyt, along with Deion Walker, along with the mixture of a guy in Ed Oliver, we haven't seen that combination in an abundance. Let's see what that looks like with those edge guys. Now those linebackers that we just drafted in these later rounds actually look better, because they're not getting beat up by these big old guards that's coming and pulling and taking them out of plays, which is the problem with our little small linebackers, if you will. I'm sorry, it just is what it is. We needed dogs to be at linebacker. And so I love this draft. I think that for me, if the Buffalo Bills can solidify on the field what they put on paper right now, I think we're finally going to have a year, man, that we can finally say, God, good damn it. Excuse my language, man. Enough is enough. We finally got it done, man. That's my opinion.
Man, I couldn't agree more, man. I mean, you brought back to my remembrance the Chiefs game, and even before that, it was the Panthers game. You know, with a defensive line. I mean, we going up against one of the best rushing attacks in the NFL with the Panthers at the time. We bottled them up, man. I don't know if they had 70 yards rushing that game. I mean, we really bottled them up. And then just against the Chiefs, it was organized chaos the way that they it was organized chaos the way that they just moved Michael Hoyt around, and you saw Ed standing up and walking around the line and just like guys were just come. I mean, they were winning in different ways and all type of stuff. It was just it was beautiful to watch, man. And we have not seen that because prior to last season, it was really kind of static with the way we were rushing. Outside, I think 2023, McDermott kind of got in his bag a little bit with sending some exotic blitz packages and kind of moving the linebackers around and sending safeties and dropping linebackers and even at times defensive ends into coverage a little bit. Just I thought McDermott was really in his bag in 2023 with the defense, but we didn't see it again. So what I saw last year early on, man, with Michael Hoyt, it felt like this was exactly what we needed to do in order to get over the hump. And then to lose Michael Hoyt in that Chiefs game just kind of really sunk. I think that really kind of killed the plan or what McDermott was planning on doing. And ultimately, you know what, man? I mean, it cost him his job. He just adjusted too late.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if people understand this part about Sean McDermott. With some of us who felt that he shouldn't have been let go, or that we needed to do this one more time. I want people to understand why, when you have a coach that does or makes the right call in those key moments, your players believe in you more. They go out a little further than, because they know that in those moments they can trust the direction you're sending them. When you have Josh Allen at quarterback and you feel like going for it on 4th and 5, and you decide to give the ball to DeMar Hamlin, there shouldn't have been another reason why you were coaching the next season.
Yeah.
But we gave grace because of the turnaround of what he gave to us as an organization. Now, this is just my opinion. This is not me talking to the ownership and saying, hey, we had to sit down. This is logical thinking right here. You can't keep getting in these situations with a talent that you have at quarterback and you keep doing the same thing. We're talking about 9 seasons. We're not talking about 5. We're talking about 3. We're talking about 9. So that means 9 opportunities he had to lead this team and get them over the hump. He just didn't get the job done. And one more fun fact about the Bills defense and why it was necessary for the turnaround the way it was. Against the Kansas City Chiefs in the playoffs, those 4 losses, the Buffalo Bills on the defensive line don't have 1 sack in either of those games.
Yep.
That 1 sack came from a linebacker. The 1 sack.
Yep.
Come on, man.
Brobo,
Not a
you're
single sack,
you're
yeah.
exactly right. And we've always had a few things that have been the issues, right? Why I think McDermott has been here. Like you mentioned, 2023, the Bills were really, our entire linebacking room was out. We had to call AJ Klein to come off his vacation to come play. Then we had the whole DeMar Hamlin thing the year before. A lot of, that was unprecedented. We understand. And then in 24, we got more pressure. We got better pressure on Mahomes than the Eagles did, but the back end of our defense failed. It was always something, right? Bro, and at least to your point, when do we stop? We look at all these different reasons, and he's had multiple chances. McDermott did an excellent job, but I think it was time. I think the Bills had to do this. And again, it doesn't mean he's not. It doesn't mean he's a bad coach. It doesn't mean he wasn't very successful. But the time was now. We have to stop saying, "Oh, it was just this or it was that." Other teams get over those issues. Kansas City's had guys out and things like that. So, and I agree. Yeah, great, Burbo. You're cooking right now. You're both are cooking. So I just want to wanted to interject that, but I just wanted to back your point.
Yeah. And to hit on his point, I mean, going back even last year against the Broncos, man, like how many times have we seen Sean McDermott in these pressure cooker moments get very conservative and get on the fence and allow these teams to really just do whatever they want to. I mean, there was a I can't remember the exact 3rd and long it was, and here we go. I mean, like a few years ago, we're talking about this against the Bengals. Like it's the same thing. Like we're playing off coverage on like 3rd and 9, 3rd, 11, and it's the first down conversion. And I'm like, bro, like how many times are we going to see this same thing over and over again in these high pressure moments where Sean McDermott doesn't send the house, he doesn't get aggressive, he gets conservative, and he thinks that, hey, we can just bend but don't break. We just hold him we'll hold him to a field goal or something like that. And like, no, I think this is why they needed to make this change, because when you've got a guy like Jim Leonard now in this 3-4 defense, he's attack mode, man. He's not going to sit there and take all these punches he's going to attack you. And I think that's the main difference here with this defense and the direction it's going, is that they're no longer going to sit here and play bend but don't break. Now they're going to force the issue to these offenses and get after them with a high rate of pressure, which we know Jim Leonard, he's known for a high rate of pressure. And so that's something that we're going to see a lot this year, which is, to me, it gives me reason for excitement going forward.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And another thing with Jim Leonard's defense is, if you go and look, I was like you guys. I was upset about not going to get Caden McDonald. Always felt like the one of the problems with our inability to stop the run was we never had anybody in the middle to keep the interior offensive line guys from getting to the second level. And once they get to the second level, we running out there with 6'1", 225-pound linebackers. I mean, them boys is getting ate up. They're getting ate up by guards and centers coming off a combo block. So I thought that adding a 320, 330-pound, run stuffing defensive tackle was the way to go. But then I had to go into the film and listen. The answers are in the film. You look at the defense. Look at the defense the Broncos play. They don't have a problem stopping the run. Do they get gashed from time to time? Yes. They got ate up a couple of times by the Chargers, and they've given up some big gains here and there. But for the most part, they do a great job at stopping the run. And the way they do that is with alignment and sending guys to every single run lane. They put a guy in every single gap. Yep. So now you're running your ball carrier. He's got to make a quick decision, and he's got to make it immediately, because there are multiple guys coming. And a lot of times what they do in Denver is they use angles instead of just pure strength. They use angles and speed to get to where they got to get. And that ends up disrupting run plays. So I gotta give what we have on this roster an opportunity. I'm a big Deion Walker fan. Y'all know that. Rev, y'all know that.
Yeah.
I was telling y'all about Deion Walker the summer before his last year in college, and I'm like, listen, this kid out of Kentucky is a monster, and we need him on this team. I prayed that we drafted him, and we got him. I also prayed for Keon Coleman. So that tells you too. Don't always trust my judgment
to be told.
And don't always trust my judgment. And God is hearing me, because I done prayed for two players.
Clearly.
Yeah.
All right. So, but then I prayed for Antonio Williams this year, and we didn't get him. So it is what it is. But look, I'm gonna transition this a little bit to now that we've gotten you guys' opinion on how the draft went. We're gonna go pick from pick, and you guys tell me what you think of the player. What would you give the Bills? What letter grade would you give the Bills for that pick? So first one we're gonna go with, and man, like I brought this, like I gotta find it, because I brought a where is it? All right, I think that's Jude, Skylar, TJ. All right, TJ Parker. When you and listen, Rev, when you brought up the Chubb comp, they are mirror images, brother.
Yep,
mirror images. 6'3", around 260, 270. Big guys with decent arm length, not overly fast, but just really technically sound. And I'm trying to load this, bro.
Sabres done. Sorry.
TJ Parker videos I'm gonna put up here. Oh, here they go. Perfect. This is. I want to make sure I get the right one, bro. All right, we're gonna go with this one first. That's the power.
Speed to power.
Yep.
And it's again, it's his hand movement. If you look at his technique of what he does with his hands, he doesn't waste his movements. A
Yep.
lot of times we see edges, they do this not enough. They don't move their hands. The offensive lineman is able to grab them and take them to the ground and do what they want. When you get a guy like him who's similar to a guy in Bradley Chubb, this is the whole purpose. This purpose isn't to get you comfortable with Bradley Chubb. The purpose is to have multiple guys that can do what Bradley Chubb could potentially do, and that's what T.J. Parker is. This is why it's so perfect of a pick. And let's not forget, the good thing about it is he's not asked to be the true one guy because that's Gregory Russo's role right now. We don't even need him to be that one guy. Now he doesn't have that worry. And I'm going to tell Bills fans this: while everybody's talking about what veterans we should bring in, there are going to be a lot more veterans out there. I'm telling you, Von Miller's going to be back in Buffalo. You don't have to worry about him taking over the roster and dealing with the defense, but having that in the locker room and giving this kid these tools that he's dealt with, that was the purpose the last time. I just think it was too much money, if you will. It didn't work out that time, but I really think that's happening too. I apologize if I'm going too far, but I'm feeling that in that mode right now, man. So shout out to Von Miller, man.
Oh, nah, bro. Listen, man.
Yo.
It's not one of them. Listen, bro. I don't. This ain't one of them type of shows, man. This is a show for the people. This ain't.
That's right.
Trip or nothing like that, man. Like honestly, we've had guests up here where I'll just sit and listen for 30 minutes. And we've had high school and college coaches come up here and talk. We did one episode where we had a defensive line coach come up and just kind of explain every position on the defensive line, explain different types of stunts and all type of stuff. Like I just sat here and listened because what am I talking for? This is the expert. Let the expert go. You know what I mean? So that's what we at with it. But listen, I'm glad you brought that up because I got more TJ Parker. I'm gonna show a couple more videos. Yeah. What I want to point out is that in some of these videos, like you just saw TJ Parker line up on the left side. Some of these videos, he's on the right side. So that tells you right there, this scheme versatility. Like, this do alignment versatility. He can move around. He's not landlocked to one side. There's some guys that I liked in his draft that they only line up on one side of the field. Joshua Joseph from Tennessee. Yeah. He only lines up on the right side. That's it. He only lines up on the right side. Tried him on the left before. He's not good at it. So they only line him up on the right side. And it works. It works. So why not keep doing it if it works? There's wide receivers the same way. They only line up on one side. Not going to see them on the other side. They only line up on one side. It's easier to prepare for. But let's get into this other TJ Parker stuff.
It's cool. Too quick. So quick. That's just so quick, man. That move is so quick, man. Yeah. Come on, man. He uses his hips so well to be able to, and then remember the one thing that you want from the edge, you want those guys to be able to get low because those tackles are long arm. They sometimes can get the best of you with those arms, but if you're low, that's not where they want to go. Those tackles don't want to be having to deal with you down there. And so when you get a guy that can come off with speed and power and get to a destination, that means he's going to be good against the run. That means he's going to be able to stand up and maybe shoot back on, say, some blitzes. Don't think that you're not going to see him, Bradley Chubb, and Gregory Russo on the field at the same time in some type of package and form. It's going to be fun to see this defense in attack mode rather than sit back and wait for the offense. So.
Yep.
Yeah, real quick, how much better are we going to be against the run just by the subtraction of Bosa and the addition of a guy like TJ Parker and Bradley Chubb?
You want me to name the game where? Oh, sorry. You want me to name the game where Bosa missed in the backfield? He was already in the backfield, but he couldn't make the tackle because he's not the same guy. He couldn't keep up with these guys. He's in the backfield, can't make the play because he's too old. And he was needed just for a pass rush, but they tried to have him doing the other things in the Sean McDermott defense. Even though it's a 4-3, it's still based upon some type of attacking when it pertains to like blitzes. And so I just didn't think he wasn't a good fit for that standpoint alone. We need younger guys to be able to stand up and sometimes may shoot out to that quick screen that's out there. They don't got time to necessarily turn their back. They can just go. And so I think not only does Bradley Chubb, we dealt with that with him in Miami, which is why Josh Allen has a lot I don't want to say issues because we do what we're supposed to do to Tuna Boys. We treat them the way we're supposed to. But I do think that their defenses at times, when they're together and healthy, they do give Josh Allen fits, and Bradley Chubb was one of those guys. So it's going to be amazing to see this defense.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. The
Yeah.
problem with
And
Bosa.
I just like the.
Go ahead, Rev. My fault. Go ahead.
No, man. I was just gonna say. I just by virtue of the new front. I mean, because Brandon Bean had mentioned it a while back before the draft. He had said, Jim, what 2 tackles? You can have your end, and you can have 2 stand-up linebackers. I mean, so just by virtue of just the 5 man right there, not even including the linebackers, hitting every single gap. The run defense just alone should improve right there. But now you have guys like Greg Rousseau, who we already know is elite against the run. You got Bradley Chubb, who's very good against the run. Now you got T.J. Parker, who has these skills as well on the edge. And even though you want these guys to fly off and go after the passer, you have to be able to stop the run. And you don't want to be leaky on the edge. And so when you got guys that can stop the run on the edge and flood everything back inside to your big tackles like Deion Walker, man, look here, it's a recipe for success, man. And I can't wait for
Same.
it.
I'm gonna keep going, man. I'm gonna keep hitting y'all with this TJ Parker stuff, man, because it's good. It's good stuff.
He's good, man. Yeah.
And this was not so great because he got upfield too quick. He pulled the Bosa on us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, he was on the top of the screen, right? Yeah.
Yeah, see, he did set the edge. He did set the edge, but he just missed it exactly. He had an opportunity to make a play, which
he
is
just whiffed.
Again, you just see the tenacity of him, how he feels about whether it's the run or the pass. He knows how to set the edge. And that even though he missed, you could still see the form of what he's trying to accomplish and what Clemson always wanted him to do, rather what side he was on. So this kid is amazing, man.
And I'm good with it. I'm good with it because you know what? Sometimes, man, it's just going to happen. Sometimes Derrick Henry is going to get out and he's going to eat up a lot of yards before you get a chance to get him down. It's going to happen, but because of the quarterback that we have, and I think and I believe that our ability as offense to just score on whoever, I don't care that. Okay, we may give up a big play. I'd rather give up the big play, give up the touchdown real quick, and get the ball back in my offense hands because I know. I trust that we're gonna go downfield and put up 7 points. I feel like we're gonna do that. I feel like we can score on every drive. So we may give up a play, but I think we're gonna get more stops and score more points than anybody else is on the inverse. Like you're not gonna stop us because Josh Allen's an issue. Like he's an issue to deal with. When they interview these NFL defenders, they tell you, I ain't really trying to tackle this dude in space. And he doesn't even have to get in his space to kill you. He can just throw the ball wherever he wants on the field. He will fit the ball in the tight windows. Even when you think you got him down, he doesn't. He extends the plays. He makes your secondary work harder. He's tough to prepare for because he can kill you with his arm and his legs. And now you're giving him a weapon like DJ Moore. Man, listen, guys, like
don't sleep on
we're going to
Skylar
score
Bell,
a lot
man.
of points.
Yeah. Don't sleep on Skylar Bell, bro. Because that brother right there, man, I'm looking forward to him.
Yes. We're gonna get into Skylar Bell as well, but I want to bring Jarek to the stage. Jarek has been here multiple times, so if you rock with us, I know Jarek at this point. Jarek, welcome to the stage, brother.
Hey, Jarek.
What's going on, guys? I'm trying to fix this goddamn camera, but while I'm doing that, what's going on, y'all? How y'all doing?
Hey, Joe.
What's up?
How you doing, Jarek?
Talk to me, man. What the Sabres looking like?
You could say it.
Big ups.
Oh,
big ups.
No, it's okay. I got it. Don't worry. There's too many ways I can find out. Big
I don't want it for you.
Big dubs.
But we'll get right back to it, man. While Janice is taking care of his camera issue. TJ Parker pick. What's the grade from what's the grade from Rev and what's the grade from Bro?
Oh man, TJ Parker, I'll give that a solid B plus, man. I love the pick.
Bro.
It's an easy A- to me. I think where you got him at, you didn't draft him in the first round. If he was a first round pick, then I would probably gave it a lower grade only because I felt like there still could have been some needs. You could have went linebacker earlier or whatever. I don't know. I know this that he's a great player, and I think the Bills hit man in the second round with his talent. So
All right. Second selection, Davison Igbinosun, cornerback out of the Ohio State University. We traded up back into the second round from the fourth round, I believe, to Well, we used the third and the fourth to get back into the second to get this young man. I've already spoken my piece on this. We led with Rev last time. We're gonna go with you, bro, and then we're gonna get to Rev, and then we'll end off with Jared on the Igbinosun pick. What do y'all think?
so at first I was a little teed off because I felt like if you were going to go and potentially gamble on a player at that position, then you could have did that a little earlier. But after seeing the rest of the draft, I understood why he also did it as well. Because when you look at the tape with him, the previous year, obviously he led college with penalties when it pertained to a cornerback and his antsy hands grabbing whatever the hell he felt like he needed to do at that time. Well, what he also did was the following year, he cleaned that up. And instead of it being, 14, 15 penalties, he broke it down to about two or three. And so what that shows is that he can be coached. You can talk to this kid and say, hey, listen, man, keep your hands off him, get in better position and do it. And oh, by the way, he comes from a college that is known for producing what? Cornerbacks. So I think Brandon Bean has whiffed on a couple corners. That can be fair. But I also think that some of those guys really weren't putting in the effort, if I could be honest about their production and getting those opportunities and stepping up to the plate to have the opportunity. If you look at all the corners that the Bills draft, those guys get playing time. So I think he's one that he fits what they're trying to do with the secondary. Obviously, we're going to get into those things later on, but what the secondary is forming into, having depth there as well, instead of having to depend on DeMar Hamlin actually being the starter this upcoming season, I love the fact that they have somebody that is physical and potentially, and he has great speed. So that is a plus for me with the cornerback being drafted.
Okay.
Yeah,
Red?
and just to echo, man, bro, like when the pick came out, like I understood the reason why they went corner. Now in the back of my mind, I was still trying to think, okay, I wonder if at some point here in this draft they're gonna get a one tech as well. I thought they were gonna get one, maybe if not the second round, maybe not the second round, but if not the third round, maybe a little bit later. But so that's kind of what I was thinking. But when they went cornerback, I was like, yo, corner is a sneaky need for this team. Now, I don't know a whole lot about Igbinosun, and so I'm not going to pretend like I do. But when you look at his size and you look at what he offers, it makes a lot of sense. And you can kind of see Jim Leonard is really forming this defense into his image. You've got guys when I think of the Denver Broncos, man, you got Patrick Surtain, you got these big long cornerbacks, and granted now Igbinosun is not big in terms of weight, but he is long and he's got speed, and so you want those kind of guys on the boundary, you know what I'm saying? And he's a press man cornerback too, so that way you can see the shift that we're going to see here under Jim Leonard. And so I like that, because when I look at Maxwell Hairston, of course we didn't get a chance to see him a whole lot last year due to injury, and we got Trey Davis White going in and stepping up and playing well. And so there's still some question mark with Max Hairston. And so there was a need to go ahead and add a cornerback. But when you think about the depth piece, though, and I know a lot of people, this was like a lot of heat coming from Bills Mafia about, why are we spending why are we trading up for a depth cornerback piece? Well, first of all, when your team is as good as the Bills are, it's going to be hard to crack the starting lineup. So, like, when they go into these drafts, you're really drafting to find maybe one or two specific holes that can start, but other than that, you're trying to beef up the level of your depth. And so when you look at the cornerback position in the playoffs, we've had to see we had Christian Benford's going to miss him a few games. Trey Davis White had to go in there and play last year, and because Max Harrison got injured, and my man talked about we talked about the safety position. You don't want to go into a situation again like they did last year against the Broncos, where you're having to put out Darnell Savage and my man from Pittsburgh. What was his name?
Oh God, Dane!
Come on, man, Dane Jackson.
Oh my God.
You don't want. I think that haunted Brandon Beam. Like, you don't want to have to trot them guys out again. And so I'm okay with trading up to get you a guy like that that's proven to be coachable. He's got the speed. He's got the athleticism. He got what you want. And you can increase the level of your depth, because at some point in the regular season or maybe in the playoffs, you're going to have to depend on these guys, because somebody's going to get hurt, and you want your depth not to have to be a guy like Dane Jackson that you have to rely on when you're playing against Patrick Mahomes or whoever else, or Joe Burrow maybe getting in, or whatever the case may be, man. So though I was still expecting defensive tackle, I understood the need for the position, and I thought about, like, this is actually a very important need, and I'm glad they addressed it when they did. And if you notice, guys, during this draft, Brandon Beane, I think that their board was set excellently, in my opinion, because it's almost like they started the run on these certain positions, like at the top of the draft, like TJ Parker. You already started to see a little bit of a run on edge. But they started it then. When they went up and traded up and got Igbenogson, there went the cornerback. And all of a sudden you start to see multiple cornerbacks being taken in that same round. So they started these runs, and I think they probably got wind, like, hey, man, we need a cornerback. Let's go ahead and get one right now, because we know what our defense wants to be, and I'm not going to have to rely on a guy like Dane Jackson or the bottom tier of my depth, in a playoff situation that could ultimately cost me.
Yep. Before Jared, we're gonna get to you, and our final guest of the evening has joined us. Just give me a thumbs up when you're ready. We'll bring you on up, Kevin. All right, let's get our guy Kevin Maserian, and let me get some of this stuff out of you guys' face.
Yeah.
All right,
this may be the first time we've had a six pack window here, Whittle. This may be a first on our
It's a lot of Bills. It's big Bills energy tonight. It's a lot of Bills knowledge in here.
Yes, it sure is.
Kevin, how are you, man? How are you?
Doing well. How are you guys tonight? That's the bigger question.
Doing good, man.
Yeah, we're great.
I mean,
good to see you guys.
I'm as good as I can be as with the Celtics no longer in the playoffs, but plus the Knicks won, so that's like even worse. But whatever.
Hey, maybe there's somebody here that's happy about that, Will. Maybe one person.
It might be. Maybe not.
But no, right now, Kevin, we're just going. We're quickly going over the draft, and each individual pick we're giving it a letter grade, and then we're going to move into how the Buffalo Bills roster post-draft stacks up against the rest of the NFL. And then we'll talk a little bit about the linebackers.
Yeah, sounds good.
Caleb Elam's Orr versus Dorian Williams. If I can get NFL Pro to pop up. I'm having trouble with that right now, but whatever. All right, Jarek, man, talk to me about IGB.
Yeah, IGB is an interesting pick. Like Rev said, I completely understood why they went in that direction. Of course, like I said, if it was up for me personally, I probably would have went in a different direction, but I understood why they did it. I mean, he was, in my opinion, the best corner that was available. If they wanted to find a similar profile like him, they could have chose Will Lee. It's funny enough that the Panthers actually chose Will Lee because the type of that is their type of defensive back, long, tall, very, very athletic, corners. And Igbenogson, I feel like we would have never. If we never would have got him, I think the Panthers would have snagged him up. So that's actually pretty funny that they actually took Will Lee. But listen, it provides a lot more depth, for the most part, and it's he's gonna play. He's gonna get into the rotation. I don't know the exact snap count. I don't think anyone knows the exact snap count. I think we can pretty much have a good idea, but he's going to be a part of the rotation. But he's a different corner. He's a different corner profile compared to what we got in the past. He's a physical press man corner at Ohio State. And the funny part is originally he wasn't really a press man corner. Originally he was a specific zone trail corner coming out of high school. And then, of course, when he went to Jim Knowles for those 2 years at Ohio State transformed him. They got his weight up. He used to be like a slim corner, 165, 170, got his weight up to like around 190 pounds. And then all of a sudden, Jim Knowles runs like it's mainly a cover 2 system, right? Caleb Downs for the most part. If you want to watch, if you really want to watch how Ohio State secondary really got better, it was because of what they did with Caleb Downs. They put him at star. So they played him at star. They brought him as an overhang defender. And they just like Caleb Downs didn't have a lot of responsibility, but just kind of manning up in the box, kind of becoming more of the play caller, the more a guy that can really confuse quarterbacks and diagnose and coverage. And so Igbenogson a lot of the times was left on an island. He was left on an island. So if they weren't in split field coverage, they're in single high. And Jordan Hancock is they're running a lot of more nickel and dime. Jordan Hancock's in the slot. Igbenosun's playing the boundary, and he's simply on an island. No one's really helping him if they're not having that two safety high sort of situation. So that's how when you got a lot of those holding calls, look how many times there wasn't a safety in the back helping him. It was because that was what he was taught, compared to how it was when he was in high school. So when what's his name? Oh my God. Matt Patricia. When Matt Patricia took over and he became the defensive coordinator, which we all know we're all familiar with Matt Patricia, they switched from running a lot of man coverage, a lot more kind of split safety, to then running a lot more quarters. They ran a lot of match coverage. So a lot of the times, the reason why those holding calls went down was because look how much he's playing trail. He's playing the deep third. He's trailing a lot for the most part. He's playing a lot more soft press than hard press. He's still doing it, but he's playing a lot more soft press compared to hard press. So the one thing that was interesting hearing what Brandon Beane had to say was that Brandon Beane talked about how he wanted to see Igbenosun a little bit more as an off man trail type of corner. They wanted to see, can he play that at a high level besides, because we all know he can jam. That dude absolutely can jam. Yeah. Even though he does have some of his deficits, like perfect example, his feet gets stuck underneath him. And again, he has long arms. So it's extremely difficult for receivers to kind of swipe. But if you watch the Senior Bowl, he even had that happen in the Senior Bowl where he would stop shuffling his feet. And so when he's trying to flip his hips, trying to get to those hip transactions, you see receivers like Cyrus Allen. Who else was there? Like Cyrus Allen, even like Tyron Montgomery. Like you saw some of these receivers kind of went literally off of their initial release. And now here's Igbenosun trying to play catch up, and this is how he kind of loses. But it's a strength of his at the same time because of how strong that he actually is. Again, I think it's a bad habit because that's just Jim Knowles teaching his corners. He tried to do that same crap at Penn State. Again, I mean, beyond, I hate to say it, but there's a reason why Penn State ended up winning as many games as they did, because Jim Knowles was just, I mean, AJ Harris, all those corners, it was just bad. It was a bad situation. So he's an interesting prospect. And so he's a very interesting prospect because if he would have played under if he would have played under my God, I just said it. If he would have played under DC, I forgot what his name is. I just literally did that.
Patricia.
Yeah, if he would have played under Patricia for those 2 years, I think that dude goes in the first round because I saw a lot of improvement from year 1 to year 2, just based off of the type of releases he was going after. Like he would get killed by speed releases. He would get killed by it all the time. Now he doesn't. Now in year 2, he didn't really get killed by diamond releases and speed releases a lot more often. He can play more in tight fronts if you want him to. So you can play him in those tighter alignments. You can play him on the boundary, of course. They even had him sometimes playing as an overhang defender. So he had a little bit more of different alignments. He's just a very interesting cat because we don't really have a corner like him. But for a lot of people are saying that he's just strictly a press man corner. I think he's got the physical intangibles that will make you think so. But I think a perfect example of this is kind of like J.C. Horn, what he was when he was with Carolina, how he was just strictly this press man guy that can play a little bit more soft press and trail with South Carolina. But over time, when he got to the Panthers, he really developed his game a lot. And now all of a sudden, even though he's one of the best man corners in the league, you can make an argument he's a lot better as an off-ball zone corner than what he was as a man, because overall wise, you really, really got to hone down on his instincts and kind of more of his processing ability, which I think Igbenosun does have. So he legit has a first-round body and first-round intangibles physically and mentally. It's just about kind of honing that in and putting that together. So I can see how Brandon Beane, of course, Terrence Gay, Terrence Gray, that's his area. of expertise is the Northeast. He loves Ohio. Like they love Ohio State players. I wouldn't be shocked if we're going to end up getting an Ohio State player for next season. I can pretty much, I can guess, but
Jeremiah Smith.
I'll pray for it. I'll pray for it, man.
Yes,
but no, man,
we may lose Terrence.
Yeah.
Yeah. We may lose him, and if we do lose him, we're gonna get some third round picks. So it is what it is with that.
Yeah.
But no, man, he's a good player. I still, if I had to give it a grade, I would still give it a B minus, maybe a B, just because I just didn't like of where we took it, but I understood exactly why we got him and the type of player that he could be, and not in what he could be in about a few years. He could end up being a very, very dangerous player for this team.
Yeah. Go ahead, Kevin, and then after Kevin's done, I got a question for the panel in relation to IGB and Maxwell Harrison. But go ahead. Go ahead, Kevin.
I already know you're going.
Oh, geez. We'll see where that goes. But, I mean, Igbinosun is a guy that I just didn't think got enough credit for how good he was. I mean, watch his film against Surratt in the postseason and another draft choice. I just think what more of the problem with Igbinosun is people are like, well, we have two starters. Like, what's, maybe we needed depth. Obviously, you could get that later in the draft, but the two starters are there. They're ready to go. What's the purpose here? Why would we take it with one of our premium picks? I just don't really think they realize how much Jim Leonard rotates his corners and likes to match up with certain styles of offenses. Just pretty frequently, they draft Jahdae Barron. I know that's not technically his defense, but I mean, he did the same thing at Wisconsin. He likes to pro match up. He likes to match up based on what the receiver strengths are. It's no joke that maybe you would see a T. Higgins or Cortland Sutton in that style of receiver and possibly want a guy like Igbinosun to match up with them. I mean, his film is. I still enjoy his film. I mean, he only allowed 6 catches in the postseason, and he only allowed 40 yards total. He's up there with the lane in terms of his coverage ability. I mean, I tweeted it maybe a week ago now that he was second in coverage in allowing yards per reception, completion percentage, whatever stat, advanced analytics, whatever stat anyone likes. It looks good. I didn't personally notice the fit off the bat. But it's pretty easy to connect the dots on why Jim Leonard would want a press man matchup corner against certain offenses where he has a different style of corner on the other side and in Maxwell Harrison, but on the other side in what Benford can do. It is a weapon, and it's one that clearly Leonard, you saw him secretly run in the draft behind the scenes. I think that's one pro on Brandon Beane, and where all this Brandon Beane versus Sean McDermott talk came in, because he does give his coordinators and his coaching staff some say in the draft room, especially, there's the famous clip of him saying, everybody text me in who we want here to lead off at the first pick of the 4th round. And they went with Bowery. And that was by far who the scouts wanted there based on their scouting grades, interviews, how the board was going to fall. And they even said they had some that wanted Skylar Bell, and they had some that wanted, Jalen Kilgore as well. So they ended up getting all 3. But the funny part was he does listen to his defensive coordinator. And you could see him super happy when he got Elarms Orr and when he got Igbinosun. And then he needed defensive players. And if that's what he deemed to be the biggest weaknesses over One Tech, I can't hate on it. And the Bills' defensive line's heavier than the Broncos was. So we get caught up in the does weight equal talent. But I think you're more searching for certain traits. And that's where I think that Zane Durant does have some stuff on film that is pretty interesting, especially as a direct Ed Oliver. It's no joke that Ed Oliver missed the entire season and they drafted, a light version of Ed Oliver. So to me, Igbinosun was a good pick. He's actually one of my favorite picks of the draft because I think he'll play in the system, and it's going to be, I think it's going to be fitting for him to match up with certain guys like T. Higgins.
One thing that people don't, I don't hear mentioned a lot is how much Igbinosun played in the slot. Every year he's got at least 100 more. He's got over 100 snaps in the slot. Whether it's they got him lined up in the slot, in the box, matched up with the tight end, matched up with matched up on the line where he's either gonna come and attack the quarterback, or he's gonna drop off and take a flanker or a running back sliding out of the backfield. Like he can play with Benford and Max on the field. You slide him into the slot, especially when you're going up against teams like you mentioned. You obviously mentioned Cortland Sutton. You mentioned
T. Higgins.
Yeah, T. Higgins, and also
Drake
you
London.
look at what don't even.
Drake London, yeah, and abused
I
him
don't
last
even
year.
want to talk
London
about
right now.
Atlanta right
Yeah.
now. I went to that game, bro.
He ate their lunch. It's not a shocker that they went that side of the corner.
Right, but also how much trouble have we had with tight ends in the slot? Like Travis Kelce's killed us in the slot, for years. Especially, I go back to the 13-second game. I mean, it was almost like it felt like 12 plays in a row in the second half. They just went to Kelce over and over and over, and we tried everything. We tried Taron Johnson. We tried Poyer. We tried Hyde. We tried what was the guy? Saran Neal. We tried Matt Milano. Like we tried everybody, and Travis Kelce just killed us. Now you get a guy in there. Yeah, he's not 230 pounds, but he can run with Travis. He can run with Kelce. He's going to he's going to close that gap and not allow Travis Kelce to get that separation that he gets on lesser athletes. I do want to ask you guys though, should Maxwell are you guys expecting this to be a camp battle to whereas we took Max in the first round last year? Is there a possibility that we start week 1 and it's Christian Benford and Davis and Nick Benosin and not Maxwell Harrison? What do you guys say on the panel?
Come on, I'm glad, Will, you asked that question because I was gonna say before Kev got on, I was gonna say, man, who do you think is gonna end up starting opposite Christian Benford? Because look, there's no doubt in my mind that this is gonna be a competition at that cornerback 2 position. I don't think, I know Brandon Bean said, well, if you pencil him, I mean, right now, pencil in starters, you're going to have Max and Christian Benford. Okay, yeah. But Max, there is still unknown there because of injury last year. And we saw a lot of Tre'Davious White and a very little bit of Maxwell Harrison last year. So now, and he was drafted specifically for Sean McDermott's defense. And then you turn over the defense a year later, and now you've got a brand new scheme with Jim Leonard and the way he plays defense on, especially, with his cornerbacks. And you have a slightly undersized, quote unquote, cornerback in Maxwell Harrison, good in zone, very fast, but is he going to be able to hold up on the boundary? And then you look at, this is Igbenos and IGB is their first pick of this new regime in terms of cornerback. Like, they went up and got him. They didn't just sit back and draft some guy in the 5th round, or the 6th round and cornerback or whatever. No, they traded up. Like Kevin mentioned, like, I don't know why you paid a premium, you took a premium pick for a quote unquote depth guy when you already have starters. Well, maybe they're not thinking that Max, is going to beat them. I mean, you've got a 6'2", 190-pound cornerback here who was specifically picked by this brand new regime right now. I think Maxwell Harrison, it's not a foregone conclusion that it's his job right now. I think he's going to have to show up in camp and may the best man win. And at the end of the day, guys, like whoever wins, it's gravy because the guy who loses, that just increases your depth right there. I mean, if Max is our our third boundary cornerback off the bench, then that's great. If IGB is the third cornerback off the bench in the boundary, then that's great too. So it's a win-win to me. But I definitely think, and I've got my eyes set on those two players once training camp starts. I don't care what Bean says. I think for sure it is going to be a competition right there against IGB and Maxwell Harrison.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay, now I was about to say I have no clue of what's about to happen within camp because I don't I look at the Wisconsin days, I look at the Denver Broncos. There is always that one boundary corner, that one handsy physical boundary corner on a Jim Leonard or wherever Jim Leonard's gone to. With the Broncos, it was Riley Moss and it was Patrick Surtain. At Wisconsin, I'm forgetting the names already. I just had it in my head, but still, like he had a couple of 6'1", 200-pound corners or barely 200-pound corners on those teams. It's interesting because Maxwell Harrison can play man, right? We all know he can play man. He's not a hard press guy. If anything, he's going to play soft press, which is actually pretty funny because they actually drafted Toriano Pride, who's the exact player of Maxwell Harrison. He's the exact type of player. The only difference is Maxwell's like 2 inches taller, but they're literally they're an exact copy and paste sort of type of player.
He's got some good film.
Yeah, well, Kevin, you know how I feel about Toriano. I think between him and David Nicholson, I think he's the better player. That's just me. I think he's the better player in terms of his ability to process, in terms of his processing ability, especially post-snap wise. I think that is elite. But Davis and McNelson, one thing that he does, and this is an advantage he has over Maxwell Harrison, he's an elite run defender. He can set the edge. It's not going to be easy to block him off because he's got those long arms and because he has very, very strong arm. He has very, very strong hand usage. He can fight off receivers with the chop. With the chop, he has a good swim move, and he can box out certain receivers, for the ability to go ahead and just kind of contain. So at one thing at Ohio State, you're playing around outside the boundary. You gotta stop the run. You have to play. If you're not gonna set the edge and play the run, then you can play as a field side corner. But for the most part, you're playing around that boundary. The last 2 years, he has been incredible in the run game, and so that's another thing that Buffalo struggled with last year. Trey White was our best run defender. Well, it was Benford. Benford was the best run defender, but they're looking for more, right? That's something that we have got to get better at. Is against the run game, not just that edge. Not just at edge, not in the interior, but also at the corner and safety position. We got to get better in the run, especially against outside run plays, stretch plays. Like who can go out there and force running backs to cut back right into the flow of linebackers or other players? That's Ig McNelson. That's what he did at Ohio State. And so this is why you get a 6'2", 200-pound corner that's very, very physical and strong.
Let's just send you a clip, Whittle, by the way. He's muted.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, we got killed by outside zone against the Falcons. They just lined up and just ran that over and over and over, and it was really nothing that we could do. I mean, they just managed to find some sort of gap, whether that was between the tackle and the tight end or just right off the tight end. I mean, they were just getting space and getting out to the second level, and when you do that with a guy like Bijan, it's over. So we definitely didn't do a great job of containing in that game. I could see that being an issue, but I'm gonna go to bro because I talk every week on here. So go ahead, bro.
Yep.
Well, I was gonna say, man, I don't think it was as bad for Max as some have just given him a lot of terrible grades when you talk about, obviously we can't control injury, right? I mean, you go out there to play, you ask these players to give you their all. He's an undersized guy, so that is something that you can be concerned with. But here's what I also paid attention to last year in his rookie season. When he was on the field, if you look at a lot of the routes that he defended, especially up the field, he curled into defense. And when I say he curled into defense, if you look at the post route against, I believe it was the Carolina Panthers, he curled into the defense rather than to taking the defender away and sharply taking the defender away. So a lot of times it was angled that he was just in a bad place at the wrong time, not necessarily that he actually played bad, if that makes sense. And I think Max has the speed to actually be a lot better at attacking the ball, whether it be against the run or whether it be against the pass. And I think that's a good trait that he has, in my opinion, over a guy like Davison, because, hey, he just had his rookie year last year. So I think if he truly wants this number 2 job, it's his for the taking. He has some experience. You can talk about the injury, but what you can also give him to, sometimes these kids need to see it sometimes rather than somebody telling them what's going on. They get to look at it from the sideline and see a different angle. And I think he has that mantra that's going to match what we have in the secondary, as I spoke of earlier, even though we haven't gotten to those free agency signings and so forth. When you mix all those things together, it's not all on that number 2 cornerback to be great. D. Alford, when he's asked to come along and be that third corner, he's going to be there to make plays. This is a guy that made plays for the Atlanta Falcons. So there's a bunch of playmakers that will be on his defense this year, and compared to previous years, that takes a lot of pressure off these corners happen to do so much. If this pass rush is as good as we believe it's going to be, that means that secondary looks way better, right? They only have 2.5
Yeah.
seconds to get that ball out of there. Those corners are going to start looking like prime corners, which is why Denver got away with a lot of the things that they did because the pass rush was good enough to come off the edge or up the middle, what have you, and deal with it. And it wasn't that much for the secondary to do. So I think having that depth is truly going to give us an opportunity. God forbid, knock on wood, if something transpires down the road, we're not going to have to go re-sign Dane Jackson and he'll be the number 2 corner and we have to deal with that shit again. Excuse my language. So I love the pick from that standpoint. I love the pick from a guy that is a different cornerback than what we previously drafted. And I think that he can fit this system, especially when you talk about the scheme that the Bills will run. We haven't seen a defense running a 3-4 for the Buffalo Bills in quite some time. And if you look at the rest of the division runs what? A 3-4. So the Buffalo Bills have actually been behind when you talk about catching up to the times. They've been running pretty much the same type of schemes, whether it be through our previous coach or if you go to the older regimes. It's always been the 4-3. It isn't anything changed. And I think this will give us change because we have depth in positions that we didn't have in previous years.
Yeah, I think Miami's going to a. I think Miami's.
It goes to 4-3 now.
Yeah,
now,
they're
yes.
going to the 4-3 now. Yeah, yeah, man. Okay, so Max is good. I think everybody believes that Max still has a good shot at winning the job. I personally just think that Riley Moss to me is a target. I don't like that combination of Moss and Surtain. I think that if they had a guy with that type of speed, and again, this is a matchup league, so there are going to be games where we're playing. Like if we play Denver, I don't want IGB on Waddle. I'd rather have Max on Waddle because he can run with Waddle. I'd rather have Max available for and Pride as well. I'd rather have those guys available for a Marvin Mims, Xavier Worthy. I mean, look at what's out there with the Chargers now. Not only do they have Ladd and QJ who runs pretty well, in his own right, but they just picked up Brendan Thompson, who's like an Olympic level like track star. So
with Mike McDaniel too.
You said what?
With Mike McDaniel too.
With Mike McDaniel, right? And you know what he did with Tyreek Hill? Like, what did Tyreek have? 1,700 yards, something like that, with Mike McDaniel, and
motion-based offense,
a much better quarterback. We got to be able to match up in those situations to get not just because you want to be able to play defense against whatever the other team has, but you also want to give your pass rush an opportunity to get home. And that split second, that half a second, that extra second where your guy can stay attached in the secondary is going to force that quarterback to pat that ball one more time. And that may be enough for a guy like TJ Parker or Bradley Chubb or, Ed Oliver or Zane Durant or Deion Walker or whoever. You just name the guys. And I'm like talking about these guys and getting excited because I haven't mentioned Jordan Phillips or Shaq Thompson or
Darian.
No, that's Shaq Lawson. And,
Shaq Lawson.
What was the Vernon guy that we got from Carolina?
Vernon Butler.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
The things that we've been through over the years, guys.
We've been through a lot.
That we tried to justify too. We try to justify these same players for some strange reason. We do. We can't help ourselves.
For hard on social media defending these bums. But listen. All right, so we'll keep it moving. We'll get to the third pick of the draft, which I think might have been a shocker to a lot of people. Jude Bowery. I think I'm saying his name right.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Okay. Jude Bowery. So I got his Raz up here. Offensive tackle out of Boston College. They are most likely going to move him to guard or give him an opportunity to play guard. The athletic score is very good. The size and weight profile also very good. Kevin, we'll start with you. Where are you at on the Jude Bowery selection?
The Bills, here's the biggest thing, right? So this was the one they got to sleep on. This wasn't one where they kind of rushed it. There was a run on tackles. They had a trade up. They weren't sure. They're confused. Someone jumped them. They just went to their backup option. This was one that their scouts all thought about, that they independently texted Brandon. And they don't throw away. Brandon Beane, elite's a tough word, but he's really good on day 3, and he's specifically good early day 3. You have Deion Walker pick. You have Gabe Davis in this range. They just nail the picks around. One of the only ones I can think of is Shorter, and they were really trying to find a special teams guy, and they won't do that again. So other than that, like they've really hit this range of target, and Shakir's in there in the 5th. You have a really good scouting ability, and I thought they went into this draft knowing they had multiple day 3 picks. They did a really good job of assessing value on day 3 because either they were trading back, and they already had a few after the DJ Moore trade. They knew they had a few day 3 picks. So they spent a lot of time breaking this down, and probably a little bit more than the second round because they didn't have a pick there. So they definitely exercised a lot of their scouting ability and resources looking for these guys. And if they're scouting staff and you have assistant GMs up for regular GM jobs for a reason, and it's these are the picks that Deion Walker, these are the picks that is that reason. And to take them right at the top of the 4th, they clearly have an ability that they want to start. They don't waste this pick. This is not one where it's someone's buddy and he may play down the road and he's getting a roster exemption. This is a guy that they have. It may not come to fruition this year, but we just saw Deion we just saw Deion Hawkins in a walking boot. They definitely really pride the offensive line, and it's one that Brandon Beane's gotten right in his tenure here. And it's definitely one where they do not want any gaps or any holes. And I would not be shocked if he is at least the 6th offensive lineman, but really fighting for that left guard job from day 1, unless he proves that he's a tackle only. But they have hopes for him. And this is the guy that they've designated. And we got on Spencer Brown early on in his career. He had some back injuries. But ultimately, believe it or not, there's only a few picks apart between the two players. So it's in similar RAS profiles. Spencer Brown is a tick higher in a few things, but ultimately it's the same RAS profile. And it's not shocking they targeted this style of interior guard / tackle. He does have some good film. He's got powerful hands, in my opinion. Gets a little caught up there, but really does have good footwork and things you can work on. And definitely as a Cromer disciple in Austin Gund and Pat Meyer, there's definitely a lot of traits that you like from him. And he may be one that sneaks into playing time this year that nobody's talking about out of the whole draft class, because all he needs is to win a job, and he's playing 17 games this year.
Yep.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yep.
Yeah.
Jared.
Yeah, Jude. Yeah, so Jude was definitely the pick that for the most part we're getting criticized a lot of. I can understand it just because of the type of just because of the finding immediate starters, and then all of a sudden here we are taking basically a swing tackle with our first pick after kind of trading that back. So I get it. Jude Bowery is an interesting player. Definitely fits more of the Cromer typical. He actually fits more of the Cromer pro style compared to the Peter pro style. Like the Peter profile is more. It's more gap in a way. Like it's more gaps, more straight line. It's more power base. Jude is he's a straight up zone killer. Very, very good. Very, very good in run blocking situations. Really good in reach, scoop blocking. Solid in duos. Solid in can peel off and get to the second level. Can seal off and can seal off certain defenders. Not the strongest whenever in pin and pull situations. Not really the strongest. Like he can seal, but he's not going to really drive. He's not an aggressive. He's not a mauling type of tackle or guard. That's just not the type of player he was. He did struggle with his anchoring. That's something that I did notice more so against power rushers. So even in the Senior Bowl, he didn't have a good Senior Bowl. Like just from watching some of the reps, there were definitely solid reps in cases where all of a sudden he's mirroring a defender. He's doing a really good job kind of sticking with this man. But sometimes even against the power rushers, and that Senior Bowl was full of it, got driven back a ton. The long arm extension for him wasn't his best friend. Kept getting underneath his chest, kept driving him back more into the dummy. it just wasn't really it just wasn't really the best day that I saw from Jude. But Jude as an athlete is nasty. It's a really, really good athlete. Like Kevin just said, his hand usage is pretty good for the most part that I've seen before. He's just really, really good in zone-like situations. So in terms of his kick slide and timing, for the most part, the timing is almost perfect. He does lose sometimes with some missteps, but for the most part, just his ability to kind of mirror and kind of shuffle his feet, especially driving back more on a kick slide, is really, really nice. And so the crazy part, I mean, I think they liked him just because of his versatility and his definitely potential to slide on the inside. He's one of the only tackles in this class that played both the left and the right side a lot of snaps. Played a lot of snaps at both sides. So that's not a problem with him understanding which side to kind of play on. And so that's experience, especially when you're sliding a guy in the inside. Chase Lunt was another player that had that same sort of caliber situation where I think he played both the left and the right side. And then you watch the preseason, he didn't have an issue with the left side, but then they moved him at right side, and he had a little bit more of a downgrade, but it wasn't that much. He was still fine at right tackle. And then they slid him out at guard, and that's where he was kind of up and down. But there were occasions where he just held his own, and you can just tell that, you can tell he's got a little bit more experience playing guard at some point. So that's what I think they're going to do with Jude. They're just going to try him out and just see where he fits the best. I think they're going to try to figure out a way for him to get on the field.
And he deletes speed rushers too. He deletes speed rushers. That's like what he does. He didn't allow a sack last year. He plays the left side super strong. The potential long term is super there, especially when you got a guy like Dawkins. Who knows? But the way he plays the left tackle and probably left guard with that kick slide, and I think it was I don't have the stat in front of me. I think 1.2 meters or of speed to get to the second level, and that's evaluated at top of the class. So they think that he can get to the second level, and it's definitely the way he deletes those speed rushers in this league it's what they're drafting for there. That's what they're saying. Okay, if he lets something up by anchoring, we'll take it. But he deletes those elite speed rushers, and it could be one of those traits you're chasing in early in the fourth round.
Yep. Yeah, they want to they're planning ahead.
They need a David Edwards
replacement.
You need a David Edwards replacement, but we also need a Deion Dawkins or a potential Spencer Brown replacement, because those are guys that footwork is impeccable, especially when it comes to shuffling, staying squared, mirroring, and also peeling off and getting to that second level. Spencer Brown, what he does with Torrance is mainly the guy that drives. Spencer Brown peels off, gets to the second level, seals it, and so that's why in a lot more of those toss crack plays, zone plays, that's why that works. Jude's got he's got the athleticism, and I think he's got underrated processing ability. Like his ability to kind of like when teams are doing certain stunts or when players are doing certain stunt formations, certain TE stunts, ET stunts, delayed blitzes, he picks them up. Like I don't rarely see mislapses. If anything, there are issues physical wise in terms of handling more power guys, but that's expected. That is kind of be expected. A guy prototypical with that size, and that's why you take him to fourth. That's why you take a caliber like that.
It's like a Bradley Chubb, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Bro, talk to me.
Yeah.
Jude Bowery.
I mean, I like the pick from the standpoint that, he can do multiple things, but the Bills run a lot of formations with an extra offensive lineman anyway. When you look at why losing Anderson, I don't want to say it hurts us, but it did put a dent in what the Bills like to do. And so if you look at the Deion Dawkins situation in totality, Deion Dawkins next year is going to count a lot of money against the cap. The Bills are going to be almost $40 million over the cap when you talk about next year and what's transpiring. There are going to be some contracts again this year coming up that are not going to be on the roster, which is going to free up some things. But until we get there, you have to put depth pieces in position to make sure that we're just not scratching our heads trying to figure out what we're going to do at left tackle or left guard, like everyone was speaking about. So I like to pick from the standpoint of a future aspect, potential maybe starter. You never know. But also learning from a guy like Deion Dawkins as well. I'm really into, if you notice, I've continued to say that, I'm really into older players or players who have done the job, really transitioning that. And Buffalo hasn't had a problem with that. They don't have a culture. We don't have a culture of guys not wanting to pass along the buck, if you will. And so I like the pick. I want to see it develop down the road, but ultimately it's just a depth piece for me.
All right, we're gonna go to Rev, and then we're gonna kind of speed through the rest of these guys. So I do want to get to an overall view of what the roster looks like in comparison to the rest of the NFL. Go ahead, Rev.
Yeah, you guys have said it all, but I mean, I just go back to looking at the fact that they lost Ryan Vandermark and they don't have a swing tackle on the roster right now. I mean, you look at Tylen Grable, you look at Travis Clayton. I mean, who do you guys have? You know, like we don't have anybody. And so the fact that they identified him, and as Kev said, they slept on it, and this was the guy that they identified. You know, I'm cool with it. I mean, and I like them getting ahead of the curve right now because you got a Deion Dawkins who's entering what year, like 32, age 32 right now. And in 27 he's gonna be 33. That's the final year of his deal. I mean, it's a huge cap hit. Dead cap of over 13 mil. They're going to do something with that contract. And Deion Dawkins could be, you know, one of those guys where they just say, hey, you know what, after 27 or maybe even next year, they said, hey, you know, we're going to have to move on. And you got this guy waiting in the wings who is extremely athletic, who's big, who's strong, you know, and developing. Much like when they drafted Deion Dawkins in the second round and they just kind of let him sit for a year. And then he got the position. So I mean, I like it. I like the fact that they're thinking ahead of the game and not trying to scramble when it's too late and like, oh my gosh, we don't have a tackle. What are we going to do? They went ahead and got the guy right now, and so I'm cool with it.
All right. Next we'll go into Skylar Bell, and please let's be a little more. Let's just get through. Let's get through the rest of these guys. How do you guys feel about Skylar Bell? We'll start with you, Rav.
Yo, Skylar Bell is amazing, man. I love his inside outside versatility. I actually think that he's gonna push Joshua Palmer, man. You know, and I think that he could be the future guy. Like they may get rid of Palmer after a year, and you can just plug Skylar Bell right there. It's going to free up Shakir to do more things than just sit there and be a bona fide wide receiver screen guy. You know, so I actually love that pick. I'm glad they went ahead and got him, and I'm excited to see what they're going to do with him.
All right. Bro, you with us? Well, you got to come.
No, yes, sir. I'm here.
Okay. So, bro, talk to me about Skylar Bell, man.
Hey, as you know, man, you noticed one of my favorite picks. I couldn't wait for us to get to this point right here, bro. Shout out to the Bronx, New York. Shout out to Skylar Bell's family. Skylar Bell, to me, is one of the most polished football players in this entire draft. When you talk about his position, you want to talk about a guy that can run any route that you got on that tree, he can do it. He's actually a more physical Khalil Shakir, if we're being honest about what we see when you look at the tape. Now, people are going to talk about the competition and talk about how he didn't play against the best competition. What I also saw is wherever he went, he pretty much did exactly what he does best. And so I'm looking forward to a continuance of what we saw from him last year. When you talk about him being in college at Connecticut, he didn't have the best of quarterback play. Putting him in this offense, mixed in with James Cook, mixed in with Josh Allen, it's going to be scary, man. So I can't wait for this season to begin with him as a potential guy. And oh, by the way, the things that we were looking for from Keon Coleman, Skylar Bell can already do.
He does it. Yeah.
So I gotta push back a little bit because I don't see the physical nature of Skylar Bell, especially when you compare it to Khalil Shakir. Like we can go right to the film because I pulled up film on Skylar Bell because I don't think he's not. It's not that I don't think he's a good football player. It's not that I don't think he can help the Buffalo Bills. I just don't see him as a boundary right now. I don't think he has the play strength. I don't think he does well against true press corners. I don't think he does well against actual press coverage. I don't think he does well against it. I don't like his release package. I think it's repetitive. I don't see a lot of playing through contact either. Like, don't get me wrong. He makes tough catches. He will hold on to the football going down, but too many times I watch this kid, man, and at the catch point, he's able to, guys are able to jar the ball loose. Just the problem is, this past year, nobody really was able to, be there. I will give him credit. He does he does some nice things at the top of his route, right at the break to get a little extra separation. But I think he's redirected easily off the line. I think on the boundary, I think he's limited because of the strength. I feel like from what I watch, he plays smaller than what he actually is. I don't know if anybody else feels that way. I think me and Jarek share some of the same concerns when we talked about this.
Yep.
Uh,
But Whittle, if you look at one thing, I'll leave you guys with when it comes to this pick, because I know we gotta speed through some of them. How about this though? Do you know what Skylar Bell's vert is? 41. Do you know what his broad jump is? 11-1. Both better than Keon Coleman. He has a better composite explosion grade than Keon Coleman. He jumps higher than him. So ultimately, I think that there is some merit, and I'm in the middle on this debate. I think there's some merit to the fact of his Z flanker ability because of his explosiveness and his composite scores and testing. So I really don't think with the slots that the Bills have, I really don't think they would have selected this with a couple other receivers, Bryce Lance, a couple other receivers on the board if they did not. At least Joe Brady views him as, and the scouting staff views him as a Z style flanker that is definitely going to take snaps from Josh Palmer. But we'll see. I still think they can have him and Coleman doing different things, luckily.
Me too.
So that's what works out for him. But ultimately, the explosiveness is what's tricky, where he tested better than Keon Coleman, beside being tall, in pretty much every other metric. So, and look at the advanced stats. I know he played at UConn, but his advanced stats they're absurd. His yard per route ran, his zone, his man. If he played a little bit better, competition was an inch tall. He's a first round pick.
Yeah, and I don't even care about I don't care about the competition argument because I mean if you like I can look at this kid and say the way he's putting Syracuse corners in the blender. If he goes and plays against TCU or he goes and plays against FSU or Penn State, he's going to do the same thing. Like he's gonna fry these guys up as well because it just I think again what he does in his breaks, I think it's very 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 elusive. Like he creates extra separation with just some of his movement at the top of his route. And that's something that drew me to Antonio Williams. Obviously, we didn't get him. I think he's going to be really good. But the other thing about Skylar Bell, I think that saves him in this offense is that we've been talking about Joe Brady using more motion for getting guys on the boundary open. He really hasn't done it. He's done it for Shakir in the slot, but I don't think I haven't seen enough motion from guys on the boundary or guys in the Z either. Maybe this is an opportunity that we do see that because this is a guy that he believes if he does this, he can really turn, a small completion into a huge play. So I'm kind of in the middle there as well, but I gotta see it. That's where I'm at with it because what I've seen so far, I need to see it. I need to see it, bro. I haven't seen it, and I need to. Go ahead, bro.
If I could, I just wanted to say I'm sorry, but I just want to also remind everybody. Not that nobody knows it, right? He had absolutely no help in Connecticut. The next best player that was next to him, I don't think we know the name of him. My point is that when you add him to this offense of what we've already accomplished, right? When you talk about averaging 30 points, if you look at the previous year, we actually ended the year scoring the most points in NFL history. So this offense is accustomed to being great. But when you add a guy with his skill set to it, you elevate your offense by because think about it, he's not going to be playing against a number one cornerback. If you take your best cornerback and put him on Skylar Bell, what is that saying about the rest of this Bills receiving core? So I think he's going to be playing against some lower competition when you talk about the cornerback. And Brady knows how to exploit those things, just like you spoke about with the motion, just like you spoke about with having multiple guys doing pretty much some different things when you talk about from the slot position. So if you take everything into consideration with his skill set, I think it's a great pick. That's my point.
I do agree with that. I gotta push back with a couple of different things. Well, really just a few teams. Jacksonville Jaguars. Montana Brown, Travis Hunter. The Kansas City Chiefs, Mansour Delane, and Noah Williams. Say what you want about Noah Williams. I think Noah Williams can play. I think Noah Williams is a good corner. I liked him coming out of Cal last year. I think he's going to be an excellent. I think you're going to see a lot of growth from him in year 2. Philadelphia Eagles, Quinyon Mitchell, and they just picked up my guy from Seattle that I was on before a lot of people were on from UTSA. But no, I'm not gonna pat myself on the back too much.
Yeah,
I try to tell people about Tariq Woolen.
Yeah,
I said, listen, this kid out of UTSA,
yeah, we were on Tariq a while back.
Former receiver, guy can run. I don't know, big physical guy. You could probably do it all. I would have loved to see McDermott get him. But anyway, I'm just saying that there are certain teams that have a pair of corners that I think are really going to give that. The Texans, right? The Texans, they've got a really really good boundary corners in Stingley and Lassiter. Like, this is the NFL, man. Like, you're gonna have to bring your lunch pail. You're gonna have to work. So there really aren't a lot of days off when you get to the NFL. Like, sure, you're gonna play the Jets sometimes, things like that, but you get to the playoffs when we need you to perform. You're not going up against these teams that don't have 2 corners. You're not going up against these teams that don't have really good defenses. You're gonna have to work, and I just got to see it because I'm gonna let Jared get in here because me and Jared on the same page. I think with this, but go ahead, Jared.
Well, I gave my analysis. I gave my scouting report for him in terms of what I think he reminds me of. And this is not a disrespect because I think that if you put this player in today's era, I think he excels, especially if you put him on the right team. He reminds me a lot of Tavon Austin when I watch him. UConn was not a good team in terms of throwing the football. There wasn't a lot of help. That is correct. However, they built that offense around Skylar Bell. Because they used him a lot in 11 personnel, more as a motion-based receiver, more motion-based. They used him in slants, crossers. They would kind of stack receivers on top of each other, and watch how receivers are acting as decoys, taking away 2 defenders in order for him to get freed up. A lot of the time, some of his best plays is when he's freed up. That's my biggest issue I had with Chris Bell, is that I know Chris Bell is a tremendous athlete, but he's not a great separator. Because when you watch Louisville's best plays, especially in the Miami game that everybody wants to go back to, he's getting freed up constantly. Offenses are designed for that. And so the good news for Skylar Bell is that he's got Joe Brady, and Joe Brady knows how to work with these type of receivers, right? You look at a Curtis Samuel, you look at a Khalil Shakir for, in terms of just finding ways to get the ball to get the ball in their hands. Not to mention too, Brent, like you look at Isaiah McKenzie, we picked up Elijah Moore, who's a very similar player at Ole Miss. Like, we like getting these type of gadget utility sort of players. Now, I think Skylar Bell could be a little bit much more because he's also really good in zone. UConn designed their offense to make sure that he is a zone killer. He's really good at finding soft spots. He's very good at kind of understanding sort of leverage in that type of situation. So he's good, especially when he gets the ball in his hands, and that's when he becomes this insane dynamic player with the ball in his hands after the catch. A lot of his vertical routes. Where are the vertical routes that he's winning mostly in? It's in the slot when players are playing off coverage. Yep. The Syracuse game, he had like 100 yards in that game. Until they put Chris Peel Jr. Once they put Chris Peel Jr. in the fourth, I don't even know why they waited this long. Chris Peel is a 6'1", 200-pound physical press man corner. They matched him in the slot, and Skylar Bell didn't get a catch. He got locked up ever since then because when you put hands on him, he gets lazy. He gets lazy with his release. He does not have strong hands. I'm sorry, he just doesn't. He does not have strong hands. And what do you know? Because we watched the Boston College tape. He gets lazy as a blocker. Yep. Lazy. Like 2 touchdowns were costed in that game particularly. And it's not just the only case. But we watched that game where he legit got lazy, especially when the ball's not going in his direction. And even in second chance opportunities, he's not freeing himself up. Like, he's just staying around being lazy. And so Joe Fagano is garbage. But there are also situations where I'm not saying this is an attitude issue or anything like that, but Skylar gets lazy. He does get lazy during some particular plays. So he's a dynamic receiver. You want to get the ball in his hands, and I think that for an offense like Joe Brady, you want to try to get some creativity with him. I think he's a lot better in the slot because when you line up, he's not a boundary. I'll tell you that right now. I think he's a Z flanking H type of receiver that they're going to use him in a lot of different precarious situations. They can use him in screens, rub routes, short crossers, that type of situation. Occasionally you can use him on some 9 routes. You can use him on some deep posts, right? You want to get him in a situation where he doesn't have to work against the bigger, stronger corners. I'm nervous when he goes against bigger, stronger corners because he struggles almost every time he goes against them. Yeah. But other than that, I think Skylar Bell is he's a very, very dynamic player. And I agree with Rev. I think he's a guy that can challenge Josh Palmer's position. And that may not be good. That may not be fine because 3-4 years ago, we were in a position where we had where we rotated for that were really, really good in different type of situations.
Yeah, I'm gonna just play a quick video of Rev. You can go ahead and jump in, man. But yeah, I just wanted to play, a little Skylar Bell, man. Where's he lined up?
Yeah,
slot.
right there in slot.
And you see how open he gets at the top top of his break. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But watch what he does. Like you're gonna see at the top right, top left of the screen. Mm-hmm. That little flat, like when he flattens that route out instead of continuing to, to get vertical on that crosser. He flattens that out and he really stretches. He really gives his quarterback a wider window to throw the football into, and also creates an extra, 2-3 yards of separation just from that. And I mean, like that is the type of stuff that I think, if the more of that we see, I think the better off we are. That's what we want. But then you have routes like this where you see him at the top on the boundary, and what's going to happen. There's no separation there. Granted, the play goes
the top.
Right. Now, granted, the play goes someplace else, but still, like even if it's a for the love of the game route, I'd like to see you doing a little bit more to sell it or just to create a little more separation. But he's inconsistent with that. I like the pick. We definitely need it, but I agree with you as well, Kevin. I think that Skylar Bell, there is a world where Skylar Bell, Keon Coleman, and Khalil Shakir can all be on the field at the same time. And I think everybody's fine.
Yeah. That 41 vert and that 65% contested catch rate can translate, especially yards per route ran in man. I mean, those we talk about the most transferable skill, which is pressures in on the defensive side. And some of those yards per route ran / the contested catch rate. I mean, Cam Coleman had a 33% contested win rate as a senior or as a final year, and Skylar Bell was 65%. He doubled them. So ultimately, I'd like to see that ball go there. I want to see him and we've seen it in the back of the end zone there. He will go up at the bare minimum. The defender won't get it. So that's what Josh Allen will build trust with there really quickly. That okay, if he doesn't make the play, no problem. But it cannot go in the defender's hands. And if that happens, he will get those red zone targets in this offense.
And that's what I want because I think Keon's better when you can get the ball in his hands a little quicker.
Exactly.
You got to get him the ball faster because Keon's at his best after the catch. I'd like to see them utilize Shakir a little more in the deep third of the third on the third level of the field, the deep part of the field. I'd like to see them use them a little more. Maybe some work down the seam. And then Skylar Bell, if you're gonna motion him out, into about, if you're gonna motion him out wide from the slot and just have him get a free release and get downfield, you could really have some big plays. Like those are the routes that I think that we definitely need those routes. It's just trying to have Keon Coleman, who runs a 4.61, run downfield for 40 yards makes zero sense. It's not gonna work.
Right. Yeah, I think what's going to make Skylar Bell or make us like him more is the health of Dalton Kincaid. Like I think if Kincaid is on that field, man, and he's doing this thing, and then you've got DJ Moore on the outside with Shakir, and it's like that's going to be a lot of attention on those other guys, and then Skylar Bell is going to feast. Like it was mentioned earlier, he's not going to go against your cornerback, your CB1, your CB2, even. That attention is going to go to DJ Moore, and then you got Khalil in the slot, and then you can move Bell around, but you got to take a look at Kincaid, and then you got Cook. Like, so as long as he can get in the mix, and I think Joe Brady looked at that, man, and looked at his like Kev was mentioning, man, some of those stats, and his vert and his contested catch ability and his speed and his rack ability, and he's like, yo, if I can get the ball in these guys' hands, get him in his hands, and they can turn 5 yards into 25 yards, just because of their rack ability. I think that's kind of Brady's bread and butter, and you have a guy in DJ Moore who already is going to, who can run routes and get himself open. That's going to free things up for everybody else. But I think Kincaid he's the piece that makes this whole thing work for all of our receivers this year.
Yeah, ultimately, you just want to give the defense more things to worry about, right?
Yeah.
They already were, like, Josh Allen's the wild card, so you already got enough to deal with when it comes to Josh. Then you got James Cook, who led the NFL in rushing last year, and the year before that, what did he have, 16 touchdowns, something wild like that. So you have those two guys to definitely worry about. Now you're adding in the DJ Moore. The offensive line is good, so Josh is going to have time. Khalil Shakir is, 60, 70 catches, 800 yards every year. You got that to deal with. Now you're talking about Kincaid, and Knox is still making plays.
Yeah.
Now you're adding this kid Bell in there. That's a lot for a defense to deal with. That's
and
a lot for a
Josh
defense
Palmer
to
is not
plan
that bad either. A healthy Josh
That's
Palmer is not bad.
Yep.
Yeah, 100%. All right, let's go with. I think one of the favorite picks that most Bills fans can agree on. Safety out of South Carolina, Jalen Kilgore.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see. I got his numbers here. Very, very, very good athlete. A 9.97 RAS. Arm length solid, hand size solid, 40. Height, weight, it's everything you want, man. It's everything you want from a safety, nickel, corner. Like this, you can put this guy pretty much anywhere, and you expect him to be able to function and make plays. Maybe not, on an island against a boundary receiver, but just about anywhere else. Like the guy can play in the box. He's very good in space. Not necessarily I don't want to say he's great in space without acknowledging the fact that he will get nosy. His eye discipline will hurt him at times, and he'll let a guy get behind him. But he runs a 4.4, so recover, young man, recover. What do you guys think? I'm gonna go first. I'm gonna go to Bro, and then we're gonna go to Jarek. We're gonna go to Kev, and then we'll go to you, Rav. So go ahead.
Yeah, I love this pick as well. He is a guy that, like you was just speaking about, that likes to get caught up in the backfield. But what you can also see is that he's one of those guys that on that defense, with talent on it, he was a dog on that defense, and I think that's something that the Bills are trying to get this defense to look like and to have to depend on. C.J. Gardner-Johnson is in the safety room, which will help him as we go forward as well. And let's not forget the transition to Cole Bishop, which he will eventually down the road be playing alongside. He's coming into his own. If you look at year one into last year with Cole Bishop, he's finding more and more ways to get involved with the defense. Now, obviously, there's a different terminology this year. Obviously, we're going to see what that's going to look like. But Jim, you can bet your bottom dollar, Jim Leonard's going to be on him like white on rice, if you will. I don't want to use that term too loosely, but I just think it's a great fit when you talk about potentially next year having him after we get done with the C.J. Gardner-Johnsons and Geno Stones, who are also in that secondary as well. So I love this pick.
Jared?
Oh well, yeah, I've been mocking this pick for months for Jalen Kilgore. One of my favorite players and watching him for like the last really 3 years. A lot of people don't know, man, that he played that. I think that probably his best spot is playing as a deep safety. When he was, when he was playing as a post safety at South Carolina, when he was with him and Nick, him and Nick and Mallory were just kind of just rotating a lot. 4 of his interceptions came from when he was playing as a single eye safety. The other interception came when it was on a deep out against Jalen Miro, and it is what it is. I ain't gonna talk about that, but still, Jalen Kilgore, he plays everywhere. I think his first year at South Carolina, when he got significant playing time, played as a boundary corner. Then he switched to more of a slot safety overhang defender. Then they moved him to a deep safe, to a deep safe full-time, single high guy. Then they moved him as a split. Then they just moved him just constantly as a split safety. Then they moved him his final year as a big slot corner. I don't think that was his home. I think that kind of screwed him for potentially being a day 2 guy. To me, this is basically Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, because this is how Chauncey Gardner-Johnson was at Florida. This is exactly how he was. And so, Cole Bishop, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, I would even say D. Alfred and Toriano Pride, Igmignosin. We're getting guys, they're not stationary. They're playing multiple different positions. Last year with Jordan Hancock is he's a DB. He doesn't really have a true position, just a guy that can pretty much play anywhere, jack of all trades. That's Jalen Kilgore, but I think Jalen Kilgore has way more upside, just because I don't think just like how teams said, and why he was slid, they didn't know where he was gonna play. They didn't know what his best spot was. His best spot, in my opinion, is when he's playing as a post safety. That is his spot, in my personal opinion. I'm watching his eyes. I'm watching his eyes follow the quarterback. He's really fooled in coverage. I'm watching him, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, this dude is Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. I see why Nick and Mallory wasn't playing. You would think that Nick and Mallory, with his athleticism, would play a crap ton of snaps as a deep safety. No, that's Kilgore, because Kilgore was smart. He's smarter than Mallory. He's a better processor than Mallory was. So it sucked that what happened to this year. I think somebody got hurt, and that's why they didn't have anyone to play the slot, and Kilgore was the experienced guy, so that's why they slid him down there. But other than that, I love this pick. I love it, and I wouldn't be shocked at all if he gets significant playing time as a rookie, just because of how much we love rotating the safeties. Hau'ofunga. I think I know Kevin got the statistics. He didn't play that. He played a lot of snaps, but he didn't play a significant amount of snaps because they were constantly rotating those defensive backs, getting those nickels in there as well. And so I think that's Kilgore. Kilgore is going to be a part of this rotation in year 1 for sure.
Yeah, one other factor for him is he's just a great run defender, scores out really well.
Yes, he does.
He slashes. I mean, you can drop him in. I think maybe that's part of why you put him in the slot isn't necessarily in his coverage ability. It's you can bring him closer to the line and have other linebackers. You can have a safety down. He just adds another body I'd have to pull his exact how many times was he in the slot and run compared to how many times was he in slot versus pass. But the Bills drafted him. It was very clear that they were getting run defenders from Igbenozin to TJ Parker to Kilgore. It was up on the floor. Yeah, Pride. It was on the forefront of we think all of our guys can cover. We think we're in a good spot maybe, but that was Maxwell Harrison's biggest challenge, and what people were chopping up film, and everyone was arguing about, can he stop the run? Can he stop the run in the NFL level? And we were arguing about that all this time last year. But Kilgore is definitely a guy that's going to come in day 1 run defender. I agree. I like him. He played, 240 snaps to post, 1,300 snaps in the slot, 541 box as a box safety. So, he is pretty split across the board. But he's solid in coverage. He's not great, but he's a playmaker. You have the playmaking ability, and you have the run stopping chops. And it's no joke why the Bills stopping the run in this draft way differently than everyone expected, possibly with the 200 snap one tack that the league's going against. There's just not a lot of snaps at 0 or 1. It's not an overly common thing right now, especially the Bills between Bean and Leonard, and then McDermott in the past. They just don't put any pressure on the one tech guys. So ultimately, run defenders in different ways. The Bills got a lot better in this draft run defense, and it started with Parker.
Kev, I love you said that, man, about stopping the run, because Jim Leonard has talked about earning the right to rush the passer, and there's multiple ways to get that done when stopping the run first. And I think we had looked for this big mountain of a man in the middle of the defense, but we failed to realize that, hey, with this attack style defense right here that's covering every gap, and then you've got these corners and safeties and these other defensive backs that are just fitting the run, like they're going to be a swarming defense, like just coming after you, swarming to the ball carrier. That's a different way in which we've seen it been done. And so by virtue of just that, when you got IGB and now you got Kilgore on top of Bishop you've got CJ Gardner-Johnson and Geno Stone. I mean, all these guys are here. We're stopping the run in different ways, and we're going to swarm the ball. That's what we're going to do. We're going to swarm the ball and make you try to beat us that way. And then on top of that, when you look at Kilgore and what he can do, just in his safety role, like we have to look beyond this year. And I think that's why I'm so glad they went ahead and addressed the safety position now, even though I think in years past we would have been content with, we got C.J. Gardner-Johnson and free agency and Geno Stone, and even though these guys are on 1-year contracts, we'll be okay, and we'll hedge our bets with him and try to address it next year. No, he went ahead and addressed it this year and said, I will figure out a way to get Kilgore on the field, but let's not forget that C.J. Gardner-Johnson and Geno Stone are only on 1-year deals, and we really don't know what with C.J. Gardner's volatility. We don't know what that's going to look like this year, if he's going to make it or not. We hope he does, but at the end of the day, it's still just a 1-year contract, and so you get you a guy in Kilgore who can learn, develop, get some play time this year, and hopefully in the years past, he can go ahead and be that safety next to Cole Bishop, which is really going to solidify this defense. And I'll say this one thing. I think this offseason, Brandon Beane has built himself, I would say, a sneaky elite secondary. That's just me just looking at it on paper, man. When you have Christian Bifford, and now you've got Max Harrison with IGB, and then you've got Cole Bishop and now Kilgore and CJ Gardner-Johnson and Stone and all these other guys, like this secondary is sneaky good in my opinion. So I'm looking forward to it, but I love the Jalen Kilgore pick. He's going to be a versatile chess piece in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of what Kilgore means. There were a number of safeties that I liked, that I thought we could possibly go after, but Kilgore, I think I think every pick that we made pretty much was a carbon copy of somebody we already had on the roster. And I think all of these guys, and I think that was the strategy, because when you lose a guy to injury in the NFL, you always will. You want to still be able to do the same things. And when you lost Max last year, you didn't have a corner on the roster that could do what Max could do. You didn't have a guy who could kind of bait corners and bait quarterbacks into throwing the football because he thinks his guy has a step, and then Max can close that gap. You didn't have anybody with that skill set. When Benford goes down, you don't have another corner that can step in and play physically like Benford and be big and be smart in zone coverage, and then come up and defend against the run. Now you do with IGB. And I just want to shout out to real quick, Brobo and Beyond. They both had to leave for other reasons outside of obviously Bills football, but thank them for coming through. But man, I like Brandon Beane cooked, man. Like he really did his thing with this draft and ensuring that the next time we're in a position to play a opponent for whatever reason, injury will not be an excuse. We have the guys now. Now, if there's a string of injuries where we're losing 3 or 4 guys in the same spot, then that's something different. But he left himself enough flexibility to make a move later on if he needs to. And what we have on the roster right now, younger, faster, more athletic, I think more physical. I think more of a downhill attacking defense. That's really going to force the issue. And now you already have an offense that puts pressure on the other team because of Josh Allen and James Cook and now DJ Moore and the rest of these guys. Now we're putting pressure on the other side and saying, Not only do you have to keep up in scoring with us, but we're not giving you a ton of time to do it. And you're gonna have to throw it against, and you're gonna have to throw this pill against elite athletes.
Mm.
So I mean, I think the man cooked. But let's keep moving. Caleb Elam Zor. What do you guys think? We'll start with Kevin.
I mean, I'm on record. So I think just before I'll go quick, but I think that Brandon Bean cooked in this draft. I know I'm generally considered a Brandon Bean, aficionado or his left man, or I'm paid by the Bills. But really, I didn't love the 2024 draft. The 2025 draft, I did like. The 2026 draft, I think, was one of his best works, and he needed it as a dead. It started off where we had to see the whole vision. But in terms of how it all and Bean just tried to get out in front of the runs, like someone earlier said, he tried to get out in front of the runs. Yeah, I mean, and maybe we didn't necessarily agree with the order of the way they went. Maybe we would have thought that, the Bills will love this linebacker class. I know that. I have that on record. I'm very confident how much they did like Rodriguez. But if you look at it from a perspective of how did this draft go, I mean, they did designate that there was a couple of guys that would be on the board with their 4th round picks. And that's probably why they constructed the way that they pick their guys a certain way. And to me, I think it's a good debate. I know if you were going to get into Dorian Williams at all, but I think that he presents a similar style. I like that he's athletic. I like that he carries in coverage. I think he's a little more ready than Williams was coming out. In coverage, see ball, get ball, kind of similar in those regards. And we've already talked about it. Is there a guy for a guy on this roster? And there certainly is. And the way that, here's the tiebreaker though, the way that Jim Leonard reacted to Elam Zor was almost like he got his guy in the first round. And it's a guy that I do believe gets a helmet and being has said it between him and Igbinogen, roster and helmet guys, which is terminology for will play, not necessarily just on special teams, but will play on game day. I think that this was a style that specifically Leonard was looking for. And there's a lot to like in his athletic profile, just like Dorian. I like his coverage chops a little more, but I do like what Dorian carved out for himself. Quarterback spiral, how it hurt them in the playoffs, really did. I mean, that was kind of a final injury again every year where he was a huge part of the scheme on special teams, but in order to stop Bo Nix. And that was McDermott's game plan. And when they had to pivot from it, and you saw little struggles early on until they kind of honed in. But I think that Elam Zor is going to be a pretty big piece of the puzzle, and it's a guy that they claimed between him and Skylar Bell were guys they were not going to trade off of. They weren't moving those picks for anything, which tells me that both guys are going to have roles in offense and defense. And there's a lot to like with his film. I mean, it's not a thumping style of linebacker. I don't think that he's necessarily looking for that. He could have gotten Dre Greenlaw if he wanted that. But ultimately, I think what is a long-term ability in coverage, what he could develop into, his leadership ability, what you've seen on tape, are things that Brandon Bean and Jim Leonard, more importantly, fell in love with. So, I'll give it over to Rev or Jarek to kind of share their opinion. But ultimately, I do think that if you watch the analytic film, guys, they see a huge match between Leonard and Elam Zor beyond just where the player was picked. But the matching could be one of the better linebacker matchings, maybe beside the Dolphins pick early on in this draft.
Yeah, we'll go Rev and then we'll go Jarek.
Yeah, I'll just add to this, man, just by saying you've got the athletic profile, you get the speed, but then he's 235 pounds, man. It's like he's the biggest linebacker we have right now, and so you throw him in there, he can handle, he can handle being in there, dealing with some of these guards coming up to the second level, as opposed to a guy like Terrell Bernard who's barely 220 and some change, and even Dorian Williams is kind of smaller. He's not as heavy, so you get a bigger guy like that, but his speed, his sideline to sideline ability, man, and I love it. I love it. I think that was a guy that they really identified early on, and they were just being very patient, which is why I'm glad they. I actually think it was a steal to get him when they did. I thought he would have gone earlier, but to have him back to back along with Skylar Bell right there in that 4th round, the meat of the draft, where everything was, where the value matched up, was perfect. And you just throw him in there, and we don't have to see Who was my man that we constantly see like every year playing linebacker? We got to bring him out in middle linebacker, and we're like, gosh, come on, man, what's his name? I'm drawing a blank here.
Man, there's so many, man.
No,
Yeah, which one? You could be thinking of a couple, really.
Balin Spector. There it
Yeah,
is.
Balin Spector, could be any of them.
Yeah. I think those days are over with, man.
7.1% missed tackle rate, which is good for a linebacker. He's improved it every year too. Those are things that I'm excited to hear Jarek's opinion on some of the things he's seen on film.
I think Jarek and I are once again aligned.
I think you are.
Go ahead, Jarek. That's it.
No, yeah. Like this is basically Justin Strand. This is basically Justin Strand or Diablo from the Falcons. We're talking fast. We're talking about fast, kind of gap shooting linebackers that are solid in coverage. That like Kevin said before, that he's really good in match coverage, especially against tight ends, big slots that are more focusing on outside the hash, where you can easily kind of carry those players over. He's got range. He's got really, really good range for his athleticism. He just struggles with short area guys. Like he'll struggle with the Scalabill type. That's expected. He'll struggle a little bit with his zone he'll struggle a little bit with his zone processing, not a lot, not as much as I thought he would. Especially in the intermediate part of the field. If it's not the deep intermediate part of the field, he's good, fine.
Yeah.
But it's just that short intermediate some sort of aspect in zone. He gets lost. Like he gets fooled pretty easily and so you can kind of hit him a couple of times, especially if you're a quarterback that's really good with kind of just really good in terms of setting people up and just kind of letting him be a decoy, that type of stuff. So, but no, he is kind of, he's a Justin Strand, like Diablo, like those, what's a perfect example? What's another example? I'm thinking about I'm not going to say Devin White. I'm thinking about the other guy, the other cat that played with the Falcons. Yeah, he's kind of, again, he's not a thumper because Devin Bush, at his size at 5'10", he was a little bit more of a thumper. But he's just a very speedy. He's a speedy outside linebacker that also has an underrated aspect about him because I think he used to be an edge that was converted into a linebacker, very similar to Jake Galladay. And so when you watch TCU, they got him lined up a lot they had him lined up sometimes, kind of like that, how Dorian Williams is utilized here, where it looks like we're in a 5-2, but realistically we're in a 4-3. Dorian's playing more of a wide out, and then he drops back in coverage, or they'll kind of just wrap him around and use him in different stunt variations just based off of the 5-2. He was kind of like him and Michael Hoyt or whoever was playing that edge were kind of more of the key players, simply because you just did like what McDermott was trying to do was that he was trying to confuse. And that's why Michael Hoyt was so valuable, because of pre-snap diagnosis and stunt variations, especially from the key spot, especially because he was telling the other side what to do. If you actually won't watch, he's pointing at Gregory Rousseau or he's pointing at Dorian Williams when he's lining up as a 5-2 or 5-2, and he's telling them exactly what's happening and what should be the stunt. And it was beautiful. Yeah, I highly advise anyone to go back and just watch the Panthers and the Chiefs in that first half. It was beautiful what we did, which I think we're going to continue here. So he's an interesting player because he can play a lot of different positions. And so Jayshon Barham, Kevin knows I was a huge fan of Jayshon Barham strictly because he's off balls in an edge, and I can use him in a lot of different vicarious ways. Until then, they draft Caleb Zealand-Moore, and if you do the research, it's kind of the reverse of Jayshon Barham. So, Caleb's he's a great athlete. He's a very aggressive, feisty player. He's not a thumper. He's not really a, he's not going to be a guy that's going to be great in terms of disengaging with blockers or even taking on blockers. He needs to get better on that area, but he is a gap shooter. He's really good against pressure. You want to pressure him, and you want to use him in different stunt variations where you can get to the quarterback, especially as a delayed blitzer. He's a really good delayed blitzer.
25 pressures. Yeah.
Yeah. Like he's up there. He's a very, really good delayed blitzer, but the good thing with Elam Allure, he doesn't have a lot of experience playing linebacker. Sounds familiar, right? Sounds familiar to Rob Bernard. It sounds a lot from that Dorian Williams, because Dorian Williams was a safety that converted into a linebacker. That's just what we love. That's what we do. We love athletes that pretty much is a multi-positional player that's got experience playing those spots, because that does translate, especially against edge. Because even though he's not the best at taking on blockers if you play him on the inside, he's solid at taking blockers when you play him on the outside. That's his range, is when you play him as a true outside linebacker, especially in the line of scrimmage, where you can allow him to kind of scrape and kind of fill a little bit right on the edge. He's good against tight ends. He can hold his own against tight ends. And you even
But
see that.
Jarek, where did they struggle last year? When you guys have mentioned it, outside zone, and what does he do? Like he literally is a direct replacement for the Bijans and the Travion. More importantly, Travion Hendersons.
He can contain. He forces a lot of run. He forces a lot of like he's one of the best against zone that I've seen. Like one of the best linebackers. Him and Jake Galladay were two of the we're just really good. Jayshon Barham, and this is my one grief with him. Jayshon just goes like he just chases. He's not really disciplined in terms of setting that edge spot. Caleb, you can tell he's played edge. You can tell, even though he's 235, you can tell just based off of how he's able to kind of engage and how he's able to kind of control that traffic, forcing runners back into the inside. And he's got speed, so he can easily get off of it. And he's going to get an arm, but like Kevin said, 6.7% missed tackle rate. That's high. And just watch how like a lot of those tackles are happening when he's playing a lot more so. So he's fun because he can play multiple different spots, inside, outside, on the edge. You can play him. I mean, occasionally they even had him as a big slot, and he's holding his own. He's carrying players, and so I agree. Jim Leonard loved his guy. Like there's no question that this is the type of athlete they want. They wanted a very versatile, multi-positional linebacker. And again, I don't know if he's going to start, but I will say this: he's going to get on the field. He's going to get on the field just because there's not a lot of linebackers like him, besides maybe Bernard, that plays that role that he can do.
You have a package where you have 5 linebackers that can get after the passer, though. I mean, don't forget about Bernard's ability, and then you're going to have him. Then you're going to have Rousseau maybe playing 9. Rousseau's one of the best 9 guys in the league, literally. Yep. I mean, and then now we have Michael Hoyt. When he's back, like you're going to have multiple guys coming from multiple places, and clearly with Parker's pressure rate and Parker's pressure, 150 pressures in college, and then Elam's aura ability, and then Bernard. I mean, he's had 5-6 sack years in the NFL. Like you have the ability to come after quarterbacks from every single spot, and they definitely ranked that higher than some other potential traits.
Yeah, there's some situations where, especially when Hoyt comes back. You may only have 2. You may only have 2 guys with hands in the dirt. It may just be Deion Walker and Oliver. Yep. Both guys who at times can be too quick or too strong for a one-on-one matchup. Then you got Hoyt that's standing up, walking around, barking out calls and reading the offensive line and reading the protections. You got a 6'7" Rousseau out wide, standing up with long arms and can power rush. TJ Parker or Bradley Chubb on the other side of that. I mean, that's a lot to deal with. Then you got the speed of potentially Dorian Williams and Elam Zor or Terrell Bernard out there. I mean, that's a lot for a team
of speed
to deal with on that front 7. That's a lot. That
2.54 bear look too. That 2.54 bear look.
Yep,
for sure.
That's a lot. Now, I thought that Jarek and I were aligned on Elam Zor. I do like the pick. I worry about his processing. I worry about his. I worry about his eye discipline. I think because we're in the AFC, you're going up against Mahomes, Burrow, Justin Herbert, to a lesser extent, Bo Nix. I mean, we can run down the list of the quarterbacks, but like these quarterbacks are really good with using their eyes to hold guys where they want them held. RPOs are part of this as well. If you got a guy that can sell an RPO, you got a quarterback that can sell a play action. Sometimes Elam Zor is just kind of flat-footed and waiting to realize what happens, and that split second, that split second of recognition, or that extra second that he takes to recognize what's happening, the play's already past you.
That's lack of experience of playing the position. It's right. That's what it is. That's the downside of it.
You're banking on the growth. You're banking on the growth that he showed at this last year at TCU, because it was a struggle at times. At that time, to me, he only had 1 interception with 1,900 coverage snaps. So ultimately, I mean, I'm not looking for 1 million interceptions or anything, but ultimately, you're right. We need to see that growth that he showed, that when he was playing a little faster or better processing his senior year at TCU, his final year at least. That's what we need to see. If he doesn't develop from that, it could be a struggle. But if he does, you're looking at a a day one linebacker where Chris Trapasso had him as the next guy off the board after some of the top guys.
Yeah,
Right.
and then again, there's no pressure for him to actually be the guy on the field day one. Like, you have Dorian Williams, you got Terrell Bernard. Now, granted, he's going to get some playing time, but there's not a pressure for him to actually be the guy and start right now. So he has a time to develop.
Yeah, and I look at this pick and I think to myself, man, all of these guys that we're talking about, it feels like Brandon Beane kind of got the best player from the second tier. Like when you talk about the second tier of edge rushers, obviously you had David Bailey, you had Messidor, you had Ruben Bain, you had those guys, right? Arvell Reese, you had those guys. That's the top tier. But the second tier, like TJ Parker was like the best guy. And we got the best guy in the second tier after Malachi Lawrence came off the board. When you look at the corners, when you look at the corners, I mean, I liked Colton Hood. I mean, obviously there were some injury concerns with Jermichael McCoy, but Mansfield Delane went early. Clearly Chris Johnson went early as well. But the next group, like, there's a case for IGB there. Not my favorite. I would have went a different direction, but there's a case. There's a case that's the next best guy on that second tier of cornerback. Same with the receivers. Skylar Bell, guys, I mean, people were talking about Skylar Bell going third round, potentially late second in some mocks and some grades and things like that. So I just thought Breen did a great job. We finished out the draft with punter, Toriano Pride, who we'll talk a little bit about, and Armaj Reed Adams, the physical guard out of Texas A&M. When they picked him, it was like when they picked Torrance. I was like, is that guy still on the board? Like I had no clue he was still available. I thought he would have gone by the fourth round. I didn't even know he was still there.
That's the same feeling I had on Pride too, Whittle. Like I was like, wait, Pride's still on the board? I think corner was out of my mind, but I was like, Pride's still on the board? Easily the best player available. So I'm glad they went that route with those two rather than some random developmental guy that won't work.
Yeah. I mean, and Jared, if you can speak on Pride really, really quickly, we'll go from here. We'll talk about where the Bills stack up against the rest of the NFL.
Yeah, he's Maxwell Harrison Jr. Smart, instinctual player. Played a lot, like 80% of his snaps were literally at boundary. And then he slid inside to play 20%. 20% was more in the slot. Very, very good against the run. He's a scrappy individual against the run, especially in screen plays. He breaks screen passes and screen passes and or if a ball carrier has it, he's breaking down the play extremely quickly. Some technical issues that he does need to get fixed on a little bit, but in terms of his processing ability and especially the fact that he's like as a trail corner, good, solid as a trail corner. He's mostly because he's a press corner, but he's not a hard press. He's more soft press because he's got short arms, short hands, and so his key is his lateral agility, short area quickness, more footwork, back pedal, flipping his hips. In terms of fluidity as an athlete, really, really good at. It's just really, I think the size, to me, I said before, I think if we're comparing Igbinosun to Pride, I think Pride's better. I think Pride's a better player, just the fact that I think that he's more instinctual and he's a better processor. But again, all the defensive players we've chosen, all of them are good against the run, all of them. And so, yeah, Pride's a guy that, very similar to D. Elford, he's going to have some position flexibility. You're going to see situations where he's going to be playing as a slot. You're going to see situations where he's playing as a field, probably more as a field side corner, but he's a very, very fun player to watch. I highly recommend anyone that hasn't watched him to check him out. He's got some upside, but definitely the 4.32 speed is definitely the key thing in terms of why we got him.
Yeah, 100%, man. Rav, man, I appreciate you coming through, brother. This ran a little longer than I expected. But man,
good, man. We had a lot of fun, bro. Had a lot of fun. Talking ball, man. This is what happens, man. Talking ball, man. We can talk about this all night long.
Yeah. But yeah, we're gonna wrap this up pretty soon. I was gonna get into some Dorian Williams stuff, but it's getting late, man. I'm not gonna hold you guys up any longer. But let's talk about what some of these other teams did. The Giants signed DJ Reader. Obviously, we know that the Bengals trade to pick up who they picked up, Dexter Lawrence and all of that. All these different signings, all these different moves post draft. Rev, before you go, can you let us know where do you have the Bills in the AFC and in the NFL?
I mean, come on. I think it's quite easy. Anytime you got Josh Allen, you got to keep him up there in the top three, at least top three. And so, I mean, when you look at the fact that they added DJ Moore, I think solidifies off the offense and the wide receiver room, because we had last year, there were some issues there, of course. But then defensively, I love what they did. Making a switch to this 3-4 attack style defense under Jim Leonard is going to benefit this team. And then they add these players like they did in the draft, and then you add a Bradley Chubb, who I really think really rounds out the edge rushing group. And then you still got Michael Hoyt coming back, and then of course you got TJ Parker, and we talked about who all they added in the draft, but not to mention what they did in free agency. You got CJ Gardner-Johnson, you got Geno Stone. Like, I think right now the defense, at least on paper, because again, I talked about this earlier, this was the main problem with this team. It's always been this area of the team that's kept this Bills team from going forward in the playoffs, and specifically the edge rusher position and in the depth at certain spots like linebacker and cornerback. So on paper, man, I think we've gotten a lot better on defense, and by virtue of the scheme, I think we're going to see this team finally get over the hump. And so when you factor all of that in, and you still got 17, man, like how can you knock them down, a peg from what they did last year? I think they're easily in the Super Bowl contention mode every single year, as long as they got Josh Allen. But what they did this offseason, I think this just makes them that much better.
All right, appreciate you, Rev, man. Thank you again for coming in, man. Listen, I'm gonna hit you up soon, because we're gonna talk. We're gonna talk a little bit more. We got some other subjects on this Buffalo Bills team to dive deep into. But I appreciate you coming on, brother.
Yeah. We got rookie minicamp coming up. Was it Friday?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Yep. A whole lot to talk about then. All right, fellas. Absolutely. Hey, I appreciate you, man, having me on, man. God bless y'all, man. Good night, man.
Yes, sir.
See you later. Good night, man. Nice chatting.
All right, Kev, Jared.
What's up? I mean,
Mohicans. Where we at, guys?
Yeah, I got him number one offense in the AFC. I got him pretty close with the Rams analytically based on the numbers. Not even my opinion personally. The numbers show them right here offensively with the Rams after the draft. There's not much difference between the two teams right now offensively, and they are the top of the AFC and the top of the NFC. Where do you rank their defense? That's really the question that we all need to chat about, because how low will that peg them down? But like Rev said, I have the Bills adding enough youth, adding enough talent to the roster to where we say this every year. That's the problem. But what's the issue? Is it coaching? What's going on? Because there is another slew, and that's not even including some of the guys last year that could come in. Sanders developing, maybe get something out of Landon Jackson. I don't know. But the slew of the young talent between the two drafts is high, and it's a lot better. And Maxwell Harrison healthy and getting a year two. I mean, there's some Deion Walker year two. There's some talent here on the defensive side, and young defensive athletic. And I tweeted it the other day, a year and a half younger, which is a huge difference. Huge. The Bills are one of the youngest teams in the NFL. Based on who makes the roster, we'll see. But if they stay young and they don't replace veterans over the top of these guys, they're a young team with Josh Allen. So that's really exciting for the future. And I rank their defense in the middle of the road right now until I see otherwise. I got them as a top AFC team. I think they did enough. Can they win against the NFC in the Super Bowl? I don't know. I don't know if they have enough yet, but ultimately it should be an AFC winning battle. And I bet it's back to the Bills Chiefs when this is all said and done. We're going to have another battle, and will the Bills get enough to finally beat Mahomes? It's going to be tough to say, but I do think the Bills offensive roster is better right now analytically. And it's pretty close defensively. I got the Chiefs with the better linebacking core. I got the similar edges. I got the Bills with the even defensive interior. I got the Bills analytically a little skewed corner wise. So they did do enough corner and DB to be a little bit better than when the Chiefs had to turn it over too. So ultimately it's close there defensively, but I got the Bills just a tick better right now offensively because of the O-line. So I have them number one. And will they finally prove it and finally beat one of these? I want to beat Mahomes. I don't want to beat Denver and get told that was a Mickey Mouse, but I'll take it against anybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Jared, where are you at?
So top offense. I think we definitely have a top 2 offense in the NFL. Yeah, problem is just the defense. I have them as a top 10 team. I don't like I say like if I don't have them. I think from a talent per capita standpoint, I think the Eagles have a better roster. I think you can make an argument that the Seahawks from a depth standpoint still is really up there. The Bills is probably outside. I mean, honestly, they're probably within that 6-7 range, right? I don't like before I had them like barely in the top 10. Now I think I got them like 6-7. Listen, from a talent perspective, it's a lot of inexperience, right? It's a lot of inexperience. It's it's really, really youthful. Is to me, I think the biggest question marks is defensive tackle. It's defensive tackle depth. Obviously, it's edge depth because even though TJ Parker was drafted, we still got to see what he provides. Can our edges hold, right? I mean, we've suffered some injuries here and there. We suffered some players disappearing in the standpoint. Bradley Chubb doesn't have a huge injury history. I think people over exaggerate some of the occasions that he does, but he does have a couple of season-ending injuries. And so at 30 again, here's another 30-year-old edge rusher that we take, and it's like, is he declining or can he sustain that level of play? So it's just the secondary. Again, a little bit of concerns with cornerback depth, but I think they have a plan. I think they have a plan with Toriano and D. Alford just in case if someone does go down. Obviously, we're gonna have to monitor the Dorian Strong situation to see what that's like. Safety wise, I'm straight. I'm good on. We're good. I have zero. Last year that was one of my biggest worries. This year it's a strength. I'm completely fine with that. Tight end wise, even if Dalton Kincaid goes down, I think you now have enough weaponry with Skylar Bell, with DJ, just players that can pretty much fill in that Dalton Kincaid void if they really need to. I'm pretty confident Kincaid's going to play like at least 9 games, like 9 or 10 games, and like he'll have his injuries. That PCL is going to bother him. It is what it is. I just need him to be available for the playoffs, and then we're straight. The offensive line, I can see a little bit of a regression just because I don't know who's going to play left guard. It could be Bowery, it could be Anderson, it could be I don't know who it could be. So continuity matters a lot, and I think Torrance could be his last year here. Again, he could take it could very well be his last year here, especially if he improves and all of a sudden solidifies himself as one of the top guards in the league. He can end up getting a huge contract. So the Bills got better compared to what they were in 25. They got better. I don't know how much better they actually are to a point where, just like Kevin said, can they be a top NFC team? Because even though the AFC has top quarterback play, the NFC has top roster play. They have top overall depth play. And
kind of flipped, yeah.
That matters. That especially they got great coaching. Like that matters, and that's what's winning these Super Bowls. At the end of the day, it's depth, it's rotational depth, and that kind of shows its head. So until we prove that we have the depth until we can prove that we have the depth on both offense and defensively, I just can't see if we're going to win it. But they got better. This is definitely one of the top teams in the league.
And that draft fully targets what you just mentioned. It targets a depth at every single position for once. So they agree. That's the funny part is they agree. And this was the draft to say that we agree with that being our big. Not necessarily everyone wants stars, and that's true. But the biggest issue in this roster was depth, and they did. They put a backup behind every single player pretty much. So beside maybe left guard, we'll see what happens. But there's still a lot of players in the interior O-line anyways. So it is an interesting. Can they beat Mahomes? That's what it comes down to. Can you beat Mahomes for the right to beat an NFC team? And they got to prove it.
Yeah. So where I look at this roster on paper, I don't have this as the best offense because I'm not sure. I'm not sure how quickly the Josh Allen and DJ Moore thing meshes. I'm not
receiver away then? Receiver away? Or what are they missing to be number one? Receiver?
No, I just think that there are other. I think there are other offenses that. I think there are other offenses that may just have a little bit more. I think the Chargers' offensive roster is better. I think they have. I think Where we outclassed them is at quarterback and running back. But I don't know that they're like their offensive line took a beating last year, but I don't know that offensive line is going to be as bad. Like it may be good. They certainly have invested enough for it to be good. And again, we are changing some things over on the offensive line. I'm not certain, what that looks like. Deion's in a walking boot, and the left guard spot is up in the air. Spencer Brown is probably the most fragile one on that line when it comes to staying healthy and not getting nicked up.
Do the Bengals have an O-line or tight end? That would be the other one. Do they? Because they have a top analytical offense,
right? And that's the Bengals offense. I think they've done a great job at fixing that offensive line, and they get good tight end play. So as long as they get good tight end play, I think Chase Brown's one of the most underrated running backs in the AFC. You know what they're getting out of their two top receivers. Then I think Yosevich is a really good third option there. They just and Burrow is like when they call him Joe Burrow, man, like the dude is cold, man. Like I can't lie and sit here and act like when it's fourth quarter, 5 minutes to go, and it's a one-score game, I'm worried when Joe Burrow has the football because he's done it so many times. I do think we're better than Kansas City. We have offensive line problems, but so do they. I'm gonna give them the edge right now at wide receiver because of Rice. I think Rice is I think he's one of them ones. Like I really do. Like if they can keep him out of Grand Theft Auto situations out in the wild, they're a very tough team. Travis Kelce clearly and coaching. What it ultimately comes down to with the Bills and where I see this offense stack up is how does Brady tie this together? Because I'm just being honest. I have not been completely satisfied with the job Brady's done over the last year. Have not. Have questions about whether or not he's willing to push the ball downfield. Have questions whether or not he's able to get this wide range of physical profiles of wide receiver, the football. Can you get all of these guys the football where they need it? I got to see that. Defensively, I like what we have. Defensive tackle depth, like you brought that up, that worries me. Linebacker worries me more than anything else. We are one injury away from Dorian Williams and Caleb Elam-Zor, and that's a play action nightmare for me. Like, if we play the Patriots with those two guys at linebacker, the slot and tight ends are going to have 200 yards between those two positions. So I don't know that there's a better secondary. Maybe the Texans. I think the Texans probably have the best secondary in the AFC, but I think Buffalo's right there, top 2, top 3. I personally would take our secondary with what we have right now. I'd take it over Denver. I'm sorry. I think Riley Moss stinks. I think Riley Moss is a target. I'm not overly impressed with him. And he's
I got
corner, which is crazy.
Texans War is 1.3 wins over replacement, which is number 1 in the league, and Denver and Bills are tied 1.2 wins over replacement.
Yeah, I'll take
pretty high. Rams is high too.
I'll take us. I'll take us. I think Benford's underrated. I think Max gives us that big play on the defensive side ability that they don't have over there. And I like our safeties better as well.
Rams, Ravens, Patriots, Bills, Broncos are in the second tier behind the Texans, and pretty much the Texans. The Patriots are tier 1 technically.
I don't see that, but
they got 1.4 wins over replacement. Them and the Texans are like this analytically. That doesn't mean that translates to the film. But
they glaze Marcus Jones and
Yeah, they do.
Carlton
They like
Davis
him.
so
Yeah.
much, man. Jesus Christ, they glaze those guys. But
Mhm.
overall, for me, Josh is the wild card. Like when you have Josh Allen, that's going to automatically amplify everything else. I think we're a top 5 team. If I had to choose if I had to choose rosters that, or if I had to choose 4 other teams that are better than us, the Rams, the Broncos, total roster wise. I mean, I'd say that they're there as well. I really like what the Chargers have going on.
Nick's ankle doesn't look right though. Did you see it? That does not look right.
Yeah. The Eagles.
The Eagles technically, analytically, have a stronger roster, at least on paper.
But after that, man, like I don't think Seattle's better than us. Like I think the rosters are pretty. I think the rosters are like right there. They lost.
Yeah, they're like
they
that.
lost 2 coordinators. They lost 2 coordinators as well.
did.
So like,
that's
you
tough.
gotta add that in there too.
That's tough. Look at Philadelphia. That's tough.
Yep. So you replaced your 2 coordinators. You lost your RB1. You draft. Didn't they draft a corner? They drafted a CB2 to come in there and play. Like I mean, so they're turning some things over there as well. But I just like us. Like ultimately, when it comes down to it, I think this line is gonna give Josh enough time. We don't have the holes that the Patriots had. We don't have the holes that the Rams had. We don't have the holes that the 49ers had, the 49ers had on the offensive line. Like, I think if we play against the Seattle Seahawks, I think that's a game we can win.
They drafted Bud Clark and Julian Neal back to back to end their secondary.
I do like those.
Yeah.
I do like those picks.
I like those picks as well.
They too. Yeah, second and third round. So they spent capital though.
Yeah. But I mean, outside of that, man, like I think Detroit's strong. I like us. I still like us a little bit better. I think Dallas is a really strong roster. I still like us. Chicago, Green Bay, there are teams that can compete.
49ers.
The Niners, like that now that they're healthy. I just think that when you look at how difficult it was to defend the Buffalo Bills offensively without a really good wide receiver option. Now you're adding DJ Moore. You're adding a guy like Skylar Bell who can be multiple, who can line up in the slot, who can beat you over the top, who can create separation through route running. Like those are that stuff matters to me, man. Like that stuff matters because that stuff translate directly to the field, and I just kind of like us as a top 5 team. But we'll end it off here. This has been a lot longer than we usually go. 2 hours and 42 minutes. I appreciate you guys, man, for holding me down and coming through and talking Bills football.
You got it, man.
Always. Y'all have a great night. Go Bills.
Go Bills.
Let's get out of here, man.